Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Marty Littleton. Would you please work with me and let's call for the ordered meeting and pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Usually the next step is for me to introduce our board members, but I got a few keeping things I need to get out of the way since we have such a large crowd. This is a regular meeting of the City of Design Review Board for Milton. Of course, I told you my name is Marty and I'm the chairperson. This is a 7-member board that's appointed by the mayor and the city council, and we're created for the purpose of reviewing and for approval all land disturbance permits, building permits, and demolition permits. The exception to that is the family detached dwellings, and we make recommendations to the BZA, the mayor, and the city council for primary variances, uses, and rezonings. I'd like to start off by having each board member introduce themselves. I'm Marty Littleton. I live on Freemanville Road by the high school, and I enjoy serving on the board.
I'm Perry Mason. I live in Hopewell Plantation.
I'm Steve Check. I live in Nettlebrook Farms.
Bruce Smitherman, corner of Birmingham and Hopewell, soon to be a roundabout.
Laura Weissong. I live in Crooked Creek.
I'm Tim Bryan, and I'm a business owner in Crabapple.
Thank you. The petitions we've heard in a sequence listed on the agenda that you have. I would like to acquaint you with some of the rules and procedures of conducting the meeting. The applicant and all those speaking in support of an application will be allowed 10 minutes to present their petition. The applicant may choose to save some of the time for rebuttal following the presentation by the opposition. The opposition will be allowed 10 minutes to present its position. If time remains, the opposition will be allowed to rebut. Since the burden of proof is upon the applicant and the applicant will be allowed to make closing remarks, provided time remains with the allotted time. The staff of the Community Development Department will be keeping track of the time and will inform you periodically of the remaining time for your presentation. Each speaker must fill out one of the cards before you get to speak. So just ask and we'll be glad to make sure that you get one. All the speakers must identify themselves by name, address, and organization if applicable before beginning your presentation. Demonstration of any sort within the chamber is prohibited, so please refrain from any applause, dialogue with the person speaking, or outbursts. Please turn off all cell phones and place them on silent. All remarks will be addressed by the Design Review Board. Will show the same respect to the person speaking that you will be received for yourself. Can I have somebody make a motion to adopt the agenda?
Mr. Chair, I did want to point out one thing. On the agenda under courtesy reviews, I have B13011 listed. This is a secondary variance, and the Design Review Board does not hear secondary variances, but I guess we can go ahead and call the item. The applicant is not here to make a presentation, but if there's public here that would like to speak, I guess we can go ahead and let them speak for the record.
Thank you. Okay, has anybody got to make a motion to adopt the agenda?
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good to go. All right. Need somebody to make a motion to approve the November action minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the November action minutes.
I'll second them. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. First thing we have on our list is the demolition reviews, which will be 855 Mayfield Road, the new Milton Library. It includes 2 houses, 1 barn. Anybody here? Come on down.
I'm not sure exactly what documents you would like to go over as far as the review or just. Okay. I do, yes. Okay, my name is Gary Gerard. I work with Fulton County. I'm an architect with them. I'm working on the library projects, and Milton Library is one of the projects I'm working with. We would like, in order to build the library, to demolish some of the existing structures on site. And that includes the two-story White House, the single-story yellow house, the shed associated with the yellow house, the pump shed associated with the White House, and we would like to also demolish the barn. So I can go into further detail on, we would like to salvage some items. I'm not sure how much detail you would all like to know about these structures.
You're just going to tear them down and haul them off, correct?
No, not totally. We intend to, on the White House, we want to salvage and reincorporate as art objects into the library the original wood sashes, some of the a mantle, and the front door. And then some other people have asked for the green shutters that are on the front of the house to be salvaged. We intend to salvage those. With reference to the garage that's associated with the house, the intent is for that to be relocated by the Friends of Milton Library, and they have asked for the siding off of the barn, and it's our intent, I'm not exactly sure how to work all the details out, to allow them at their own expense to remove the siding, and then we would demolish what's left.
Okay. Any questions? Okay. Do we have any public comment as it relates to the demolition of 855 Mayfield Road? This
Can
is,
I ask one question? When is the time schedule for this?
There's some administrative procedures within the county that need to occur, and I have no control over those. I've drafted the letters and the documents that need to be signed and issued. As soon as those get done, then I am free to meet with the Friends of the Library, which I will do that, assuming that they sign a liability waiver release form. And then when they do that, then I can meet on site with them. So as soon as we can do that, but I don't control the people that sign those documents.
But there's no other hangups you're aware of?
That's correct. I mean, as far as asbestos abatement, all that's been addressed. Hazardous materials have been addressed. The well's been addressed. So we're ready to go.
Very good.
okay. Thank you so much for your time. Do we have that on the review?
Ready to make a motion on that?
I don't think so. We don't have to make a vote on that, right? We do? Okay. Who would like to make a motion for the demolition, to approve the demolition of 855 Mayfield Road?
I'll make a motion for the,
Okay, demolition of 855 Mayfield Road.
I'll
I'll second. Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Good. Final reviews. Next one up is 850 Pizza Bar for the Pizza Bar window replacements, outdoor lighting at 12635 Crabapple Road. Hey there.
Hi. I'm Kristen Ware with Ware & Associates Architects, and I'm representing my client Glenn Griffith and 850 degree Fahrenheit Bar Pizza. My client intends to open a new restaurant to be located at 12635 Crabapple Road. There was a former restaurant in this space, and they had an outdoor patio, and the patio has an existing pergola and an existing brick bar. What we're asking to do is to remove the existing brick bar that's on the patio, and then to replace 4 of the existing windows with 2 larger windows that would be double hung windows, and they would have a counter so that you could open them up and there would be room to have transaction between the interior bar and the patio. And in addition, we'd be adding 4 light fixtures, gooseneck style, that are similar to those that are on the building. We're not looking to change the colors or the materials. The windows we'll be installing will be in keeping with the existing design, and we're just keeping it simple, not intending to change the look or the style, just purely functional. We think it'll make a better use of the exterior patio space.
The only question I had, I read it here on your print and answered it, so.
Okay, great.
Any questions?
Do you plan on tearing down the trellis?
No, we plan to leave that for
Okay.
now.
Okay, anybody want to make a motion to approve the 12-635 Crabapple Road?
Mr. Chair, just one comment. The existing windows, are those aluminum?
They'll go back to the same material that's what they are now,
Same
correct?
material?
They can be the same material.
That would be what we would stipulate, is the same material the rest of the windows in the building.
Okay.
Right. So if there are wood windows there now, they would stay.
Whatever's there now is what you
Whatever
gotta
there is
match.
now,
Yes,
you're gonna
okay.
match. So if
Okay.
it's only 1 feet,
Okay.
okay.
What type of countertop are you going to use? Just a
We're going to
question.
use a quartz, white quartz countertop.
Okay.
Yes.
And I just had one question. You'll be coming back for the awnings?
For
The
the,
awnings?
we're not going to do the awnings. We remove those from the design.
Okay.
Okay, I would like to make a motion to approve 12-635 Crabapple Road, subject to the windows being, the new windows that will be installed will be of the same material and within the same keeping of the existing windows of the structure.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You're good to go, Christine. Okay. Next, Windward Retail Centers, a dumpster. I remember you from the last visit. I've looked at this pretty extensively, I've read over there. And here's the questions I have, so y'all come up your
Where's
own.
this going to go?
But I want to see what the upside's going to be, what it's going to look like.
Space.
Yep.
Like a parapet at the top that matches this over here.
Side of the door.
And then the rock at the bottom.
I'm Mary Lambert.
You know, they don't show any more information on there. I don't, did we address it the last time we were here?
I'm giving you some additional information that hopefully will help.
Okay.
I'm Mary Lanning. I'm a landscape architect representing Belch Properties. And one of the landlords is actually here from
No,
California.
no, the top, bottom.
To that.
Oh, I got it, I'm sorry.
First French.
Thank you.
Like curious. That's probably better. One of the representatives of Belch Properties is here with us this evening, Vladimir Rozan. And if you need additional information from him, he can provide that. But what was just passed out to you, this is the trash enclosure for the cardboard-only dumpsters that we were asked to put in an enclosure as opposed to sitting on the parking lot. And we had provided, in our original submittal, just a plain stucco looking to match the building. And when we reviewed the code and talked about it a little more, we thought this would be more suitable as it matches the small,
Water table.
right, stone accent at the bottom.
Mhm.
And there's a color chip that Angela has in front of her that, you know, purples and tans are horrible to get matched on the computer. So it's a more pale color, closer to what you have in the photograph there. And that's a photograph of one of the retail centers. So hopefully that's helpful.
I think the question that I had earlier when I looked at it
Right.
was, how are they going to address the very top? Because they're going to make it out of cinder blocks. They're going to fill the cinder blocks. And I know that we all look at these dumpster enclosures, and after the dumpster truck hits them a couple times, they got cracks all over them, and sometimes it's from water and water getting into the top, intruding into the top of the dumpster enclosure. And then freezing and cracking, and so the stucco peels off, and then a year or two, they look great when you first put them up. But so I guess what I'm asking is, would you consider putting a parapet at the top, something that would shed the water off of that wall? You know, you look at the top of the building, and the building, the top's got a nice cove at the top, parapet. I guess what I'm looking for is just not a straight wall at the very top. You know, put a band at it, a band at the top that's stucco band, so we don't look at just a straight stucco wall.
Cap, some kind of cap.
Because how tall, let's see, it's 8 foot tall?
It's 8 foot.
Yeah.
Let me give you, yeah, you're there. What do you think about providing? That might address it.
You're talking about the top cap piece?
Yeah, versus this. You want to provide that?
Sure, top cap piece, yeah.
A top cap piece, something similar to the building?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like it to look like the building being smaller, because
Right, in scale.
the elevation, it doesn't need to be that big.
Right.
You need to make it size appropriate to the height of that particular wall. But the real thing that I'm looking for, I mean, obviously that makes the wall look better, but what I'm looking for is to stop water intrusion from going down the center of that cinder block wall, because we all know who builds them, and I'm a builder by trade, and I gotta tell you how many of my dumpsters that I built, dumpster enclosures I built over 20 years that don't look good today. And some of it's because when it was put in, they crack, and I'm just trying not to get that cinder block look behind the stucco.
Sure.
Because what happens is you're building, it's your building, right? You own this property?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm not trying to speak badly about you, and I'm not trying to make this difficult. But this particular enclosure is visible from the Home Depot side. It's going to be visible. It's got a lot of traffic. It's not like it's a product that's going to be put in an alley that just only service people get to see.
Sure.
So what we're really looking for is the design concept of it to be where the water sheds off the top so it doesn't drip down in it because it's neglect. Not saying you're neglectful, but
It's just the
it's just a
nature of
fact of life, nature of the beast.
So some little detail in scale.
Yeah.
That would be similar to that curve, that arc, and that.
Yeah, and I'm not looking for a brass parapet. I'm looking for,
Just some kind of
something
top
at the
cap.
top that will, you can build it out of aluminum parapet as far as I care personally. I just want to see the water shed off so it doesn't drain down the center and so that we have the appropriateness to it.
I don't see any problem with that.
Okay, the other thing, you got your bars at the front of this right here, and you got a center bar, correct?
Posts, yes.
Post, okay.
Yes, yes.
All right, good, you got your two at the back. For some reason, at the restaurants that we had built, the dumpster drivers could not seem to make a 14-foot wide opening. They had to hit the side of my dumpster enclosure.
Yes, we have no
So
problem.
from an ordinance standpoint, I don't know how we as a city would address it, but since that's such a highly visible area, you know what I'm saying? That we'd want to look at, then the secondary question, which Linda had, was, did we ever address the parking space issue?
That complex and the Home Depot share parking, so.
And so
it is
they're conforming to,
because of the shared parking.
because of the
yes.
shared parking. Okay.
Well, yeah, because I think initially, we were taking up, 4 spots, possibly? Is that still,
It's still,
two spots?
21 feet wide.
It's got to be more than two.
Yeah. It's 21 feet.
So average space.
With this one, so I would say, you can say 3, yes.
3. Okay.
But they are going to be time restricted as to when they can pick this up.
But I think the question was,
initially they showed 4, so
And-
it's 3, then we'll know that it's 3.
right, Angela, did we check on the whole time restriction thing? I think there was a question about that, whether you can do that.
It's hard to
Restricting
enforce.
the parking, that's, I mean, it's a private, the management company will have to enforce that.
If I could make a note that could possibly help resolve this issue.
State your name, your address, and
Yeah, my name is Vladimir Royce. I'm one of the landlords. What I want to mention is that most of the customers in the center, they open up at 10:30, some are even at 11. Restaurants usually don't open before 11, and most others open at 10, 10:30, and they don't have much traffic. We have security cameras, so we kind of watch it day in and day out. So this is in the very back, and it will be picked up. The carton enclosure bins will be picked up very early in the day, as early as possible. So certainly by 10:30, 11, it will be done, no problem. But even before 11, there's tons of parking spaces around the complex. It just there's no traffic there at all.
So they can put up a sign, like some of them do, like parking for dry cleaners
Yeah.
only, but it would be a private enforcement thing.
I think as long as the pickup's early, then you don't really have an issue. I think that was the issue, whether it was gonna coincide with people needing the spots.
Yeah, we have pickups now for other trash around like 9 to 10 and sometimes at night.
Okay.
9 to 10 in the morning or at night, and the same will be here. And I want to address one other issue about that you spoke well of the issue of water intrusion into stucco and looking ugly and all that. I personally come from aerospace, so I'm used to a certain way of pronouncing quality, and that issue is very dear to me because I never want to see this kind of stuff on my own house that I've recently remodeled, and I've just dealt with it just recently. And I noticed that most of the enclosures that I've seen around the area, the way they're done, once they build them, they just blip some cement on it, period, just like that. Nothing like normally is done with stucco.
Well, they don't have a system.
The way I intend to do it is the way normally stucco is done, which is in 3 coats, as you probably know, scratch brown and finish coat, and lath paper underneath. And that lath paper is exactly what prevents those cinder blocks from coming through. And on top, of course, like you recommended, I want to put a cap which will be slightly wider than the thickness of the wall. And that will take care of it because, yeah, you have a very good point there. So.
Well, I personally have experienced building them myself incorrectly. And I've had to suffer the consequences of paying to have them fixed 10 years later. So,
yes, I understand.
So we appreciate you working with us, and we appreciate you being part of our city and owning a building. I frequent your buildings at least 3 times a month.
Well, I came here from LA, so we take it seriously. It's a small group of owners. We're not like big companies, and we take pride in it. And we really put all the money back in the properties. We don't spend them on expensive sailboats. We really watch every dollar of what our tenants.
Well, if you change your mind, you get a sailboat, call me. So we appreciate we got to vote on this. So anybody want to make a recommendation?
Mr. Chair, I just had one question. I want to make sure I had the right conditions. So we're going to put the some kind of stone cap on there. Did we
Not stone. It's going to be a metal cap with a
metal
parapet.
cap. Okay. Well, speaking of the stone, so the materials have to match the building.
Existing structure.
Did we want to add some sort of stone water table to match?
That's what we're talking about. At the bottom, it would be, they've already put on their plan, the water table on one of them. So we have the water table that would, I've not gone out there to measure that, and there's not a measurement of what exists on the existing building and height. I just want to make it architecturally correct in terms of dimension, in terms of height. And when you go up to the top, I would assume that probably a 16-inch parapet at the top with a, would you say 20-inch at the bottom?
I think that's what I called. 20,
It's 20?
probably, for this scale.
22.
Yeah, so 20-inch at the bottom, something there about.
That's 22, so.
22, we're fine, and then 16 at the top, have your curve-out parapet, so it doesn't have to be exactly, because the public's not going to have it
Sure.
setting side by side.
Just the
But that
flavor.
we want to emulate this design, and at the very top of your parapet, we're looking for a metal cap at the top.
How tall should it be again? You said 22?
No, your bottom part of your water table will be 22 inches, which is what you've got. The top parapet, this part here, sir? This part up here, you're the architect, 16 inches, you think that's good enough at the top? For a radius?
Can you
8
give
foot.
us, let us play with that in scale to make sure it
Yeah.
looks right?
12,
12,
maybe
12 to
between
16.
and
I'm just looking for it to be
18 or something.
dimensionally correct.
Right.
Yeah, because the wall is only 7'4", so
12 inches.
It says it's 8, but,
Probably 12 inches.
so,
4 to 8.
yeah.
It's a short dumpster. It's those
Okay.
cardboard enclosed,
Whatever makes it to scale is fine.
All right.
So we're looking for scale. And instead, I guess, can we make the recommendation that they just come back to staff and show what your end result's going to be?
Yeah, well, they'll submit that when they submit for their building permit.
Okay.
Make a motion.
Okay. You want me to do this one? Or you want to do it?
Yeah, because you had the.
Okay. I want to make a motion to approve the Windward Retail Center's dumpster enclosure, subject to a 22-inch water table with matching stone to match the subject building on the property, with a 2-scale parapet to be put at the top, with a metal cover to cover the cinder block wall.
Yeah, we're okay. This is the parapet. We're okay.
And then we had one other, and we also want to make it, our motions to subject to, I guess we don't have to bring it back to any kind of approvals because it's going to be on the permit, building permit, correct? Okay. So do I need to redo this and say, make a motion to, you got it? Anybody want a second?
Oh, second.
All in favor? Aye. You are good to go, Mary. Thank you. Sorry that I was confusing. Okay. Next is Crabapple Station's townhomes. Waterford Homes.
Hello, good evening. My name is John Molinari, and I'm Senior VP for Waterford Homes. I'd like to thank the board for allowing me to present our newest townhome building in Crabapple for your approval. Crabapple Station is located at Crabapple Road and Broadwell Road. I think there's a map in your packet there on the second page. Waterford Homes started Crabapple Station back in late 2006 as a mixed-use community with 32 single-family lots and 33 townhome pads. The commercial buildings were done by others. We built and closed 12 single-family and 13 townhomes, and then the Great Recession hit. We started back up again in 2012 and sold 8 more single-family homes. Between us and another builder, we completely sold out of the single-family lots, which brings us here today to ask the board for their approval to start a 5-unit townhome building. The proposed building is located on the corner of Arklow and Dunbrody Drive. Right here. This is what we're proposing, this building right here. And it's surrounded by, on one side is commercial, there's fronts of single family, which we build. Here's the commercial. This is the proposed building pad. Here's some single family that we built back in 06, 07. It backs up to some townhomes that we built. And to the right of it, if you're facing it, these are vacant lots still. The proposed building will be very similar to the 2 other townhome buildings we built back in 06, 07. But we'll have the latest, most popular exterior colors schemes as shown on the boards on the wall there. I don't know if you have time to look at them later. You can, but trust me, they're the latest colors and very popular. And we also will be using some rock-proof windows, composite windows and shutters, along with upgraded shingles, which I also brought for you to look at if you have time later.
What are they, 30-year architectural?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I feel that with this building, we are being very respectful to the Crabapple architecture and the community and helping it along to its completion. I thank you.
Thank you. Any public comment? Okay. You want to go there? Did everybody want to go there and look at the materials?
two existing buildings we built. There's a commercial surrounding. That's a single family that actually here's the pad. It's going to front that those single family, and it's going to back this township. Here's the walk-through shutter. It has issues with shuttering before, so we went the extra step and make sure that the walk-throughs don't fall apart at the corners and stuff like that. We don't maintain it as well as they do. Jamming their stuff. Actually, unfortunately, we didn't have this. When we first built the first townhome building, that some of them were dark. This will take care of that problem. Yes, we'll have the shutter dogs and the hinges. The only thing is, and we got a warrant for that. They're not full size. We'll have they have like a picture of it. You know, I don't think so. There's a picture of that right there. We got the shutter dock and the hinges. We got some nice doors to see. I don't know if you noticed. And then, of course, the target price is being in the mid-3s. And we hope to get started sometime early, probably first quarter next year. It's changed a little bit. Get 5 units alone. We'd like to probably pre-sell one of them or two. Start the other. And we're doing the same thing. And then you have an option to finish another 300-400 in the basement. There's a room called media room. Washing dishes, that bathroom, two bedrooms. These are all 3 bedrooms. One 4 bedrooms. Unless you want to do media room, washing dishes.
So Laura, where have you been over there? That development? That's nice development. Just for giggles?
Well, I have a friend that lives over there.
Yeah.
She lives in homes,
Yeah.
but I've been into all the restaurants.
I don't see any problems with this, do you?
No.
Everybody okay with this, Steve?
Yeah.
It looks great.
They've done good work over there already.
Stuff.
I agree, they should. Yeah.
It was pretty.
Can I tell you, I just said to her that this is what we should sit there, show this back and take a picture, say, this is what you gotta do.
I agree.
Is there any other questions I could answer?
I think that you have done a good job, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Really nice.
Ladies and gentlemen, do we have any public comment for Crabapple Station? Okay, would somebody on the board like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve Crabapple Station, Units 628, 632, 636, 640, 644, Dunbrody Drive.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
John?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, next on our agenda is Hidden Forest Townhomes, Canary Lane. Is Mr. Jacoby here?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
My name is Jim Jacoby with JEH Homes, and I actually brought a little bit additional information for you, and honestly, I just realized I left some other brick samples in my truck. So I've got my truck's parked right outside, and I'm going to run out and get the roof shingles and brick. I've completely forgot.
Absolutely.
You want
You know,
first?
snack.
I can't believe it, they made me take every day.
Is this the one we're talking about? 28 No. This one? You know anything? Okay. Smells good though. Cinnamon? Cinnamon. Oh. I didn't want one until I got the smell.
I'm okay. At the moment.
At the moment.
I don't like the look. Too busy, too much. Always need this on an outside edge. Or don't. Shall we stop it on the inside corner, not on the outside corner? We have these things supported by wood. No, that doesn't look proper.
Thank you, sorry about that. My name is Jim Jacoby with JH Homes, and we are
Do you have any other comments on this?
getting ready to start, to commence construction in a townhouse project called Hidden Forest, which is located near the intersection of Morris Road and McGinnis Ferry. I submitted to you some additional information, has some color renderings, shows you some pictures of existing units out there, a landscape plan, and also the very last page is what we originally had approved. We actually came through DRB maybe 9 months ago, 10 months ago, and actually got approval, and we were under the impression that there was approval for the community. And so we submit for building permits, and now we're ready to start building. We formulated our plan and building off of that DRB approval, and we're told we need to come back through and submit everything to you one more time to go through. So we're here tonight, and I've worked with staff, and they've worked really well to get us here tonight. So I really open the floor if you have any questions. I guess first, let me tell you a couple of improvements. One thing, our original plan stated that we were going to have pre-tap shingles. We're actually now going to use architectural shingles. We have, we do vary the brick per building. It's a, it's not a drastic variation between brick tones, as you'll see what I'll show you. And one reason being is that all the existing units out there, each building is just one solid brick color. And we like that idea. However, we like the idea of just having a little bit subtle variation between each unit. And in our original DRB approval, we were requested to vary the garage doors per unit by having one garage door having glass windows, the other being solid, the other having glass in the door. And so we showed that on this plan where they're alternating. And our price point is going to be from the 250s, 250 to 270s, depending on the plan. And that's about it. This particular building is in the back of the community, at the highest point of the subdivision. And that's it.
Go ahead.
Public comment?
Any public comment? Come on, open this up to the board.
I do want to make one comment, and the applicant is aware of this. Per the Highway 9 code, each elevation of the building has to be at least 75% brick or stone. So that means the sides and the backs.
And we have prepared for that, and that's shown on our plans. We have, that was a comment when we came through DRB the first time. The DRB actually approved us to do 50% brick, and so Angela pointed out to me afterwards that deviation from the code was not, so we couldn't do that. So our plans do show 75% brick, minimum 75% brick on each side of the building, not a collective average, but on each side.
Bob, you got a comment?
I did meet with this applicant several times. I do want to bring up to the board, to your attention, that there were townhouses recently submitted and approved by the board in much greater detail. Things that the board had, and these have like 8 on 12 pitch roofs, where this applicant has asked for 6 on 12. Much more detail on the side elevations as far as windows, details at the gable ends. So those are the common things, much more detail on the garage doors, varied window grids, and things like that. I could pass this around so you could all see what you had previously approved. But these are just being built now. So this submittal is very different from this.
Is this what you're talking about, Bob? Is this, you mean this when we approve this?
This here.
There's another builder,
Is it
Javad was
Yes.
fully in the development, and so a few months ago, you all approved those townhomes.
So what's
Now, are these the same pitch roofs as Javad's?
No, sir. Our original approval was this roof that we're presenting here today, and that was the design that we followed through with. Keep in mind, this, Javad is building, I believe, either 5 or 6 unit building. I'm not sure what's shown on your plan there. And we have the balance of the lots. We have 60 lots remaining in the subdivision. Yes, one building, it is on the opposite end, away from this one. As you'll note on the existing buildings, the picture I showed you, that their roof pitch is very similar to ours. One thing also to note is that I know you're looking at 11 by 17 paper, but this building is a 10-unit building. It's almost the length of a football field. And to increase our roof pitch, and it's on the high point, we just thought that would, it just would not look as pleasant.
All right,
Have you
so-
got greater
so-
detail? I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. So Jim, we approved this.
Yes, sir. Y'all approved that.
Okay.
Right,
And-
we asked them to come back because that approval wasn't tied to a specific set of townhomes, and I didn't realize that at the time, and so we explained to him he would have to come back unit by unit, so that's why he's here.
But we kind of granted
Right. And
some
actually-
sort of approval
Right, you
on the
approved
product.
that with the
For,
the addition of the Highway 9 requirements.
yeah. So tell us, you've submitted this for approval and we approve this.
Yes, sir.
And this is what you're bringing forward to build on those 10 pads.
Yes, sir. We've made drastic
Okay.
changes.
So
I've made-
tell us what those changes are again.
One, we've gone to architectural shingles. We've
Okay.
done metal roofs over the porches along the frontage.
I remember this, okay? I mean, I don't know how long ago it was.
August, was it? April, August?
It was a while ago. It was a long time ago.
I remember quite a lengthy discussion about ads and brick, and I think we had asked you to do brick halfway up
Correct.
and go with the metal roofs, and I can't remember everything, but I do remember
We're
spending a
actually
lot
showing a
of
substantial-
time on that approval process. So what have you changed?
So we now have metal roofs over the
Garage?
garages and the porches where applicable. Our returns also have metal roofs. And we're doing architectural shingle. We have added accents above windows, whereas before we didn't have accents above windows. We've added stone accents to help vary the elevation. We put stone accents above windows and Lewis and brick to help break up the building a little bit more and increase the aesthetics. We have an upgraded garage door on this building as well. Yes, sir.
This picture you have on the back, this one here,
Yes,
those are built.
correct.
Those are, I mean, so those are the existing homes that were in there.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Compared to what is existing, this is significantly more. I mean, this is.
Are these all in the same subdivision?
Steve, which ones are you looking at?
This right here,
page
this
here.
is the existing townhomes that were
Yes, sir.
built in there?
That's the
Bob?
existing building that's to the side of our building.
To the side?
Yes, sir. Just the
So
side
within
street.
view?
Yes, sir.
These are the three-story front. I'm not sure.
Bob, your concerns was over the roof height.
Well, I got roof massing, the side elevations on what he just submitted, aren't equaling to what he showed to staff and what you had in the original packet, so I'm not sure which side elevations he's looking at now.
Our side elevations, we have we broke up the side instead of running brick all the way up. We broke it up with an eyebrow. The eyebrow will be metal as well. And,
But it's not in this packet.
Yes, sir.
Is this the one?
Yes, sir. That's the
Okay, because it's different than this one, so this is the one that you referred to. This is what you just submitted now. That was the original. This is the
Yes, sir, exactly. And so, which is our original approval, we were just going to brick going up one floor. So now our new approval, we have a brick banding going on the second floor, and then we have the
eyebrow.
We have the eyebrow with the metal return, and then siding above it to help break up the side elevation. In addition to that, the one side elevation that's nearest to the street. As you look on the landscape plan, I put a lot of trees next to it to even help further break it up and buffer it from the road. And then that road is a dead end, little stub street that's right there next to it.
Hey, Bob, clarification. Which ones are we approving? I've got like two sets going here.
I know, I'm getting a little confused
Yeah, I'm
myself.
totally confused. I don't know what I'm looking at.
I'm not exactly sure. I think he submitted this last one
Yes.
to show what
was originally approved.
What they look
What
like.
was originally
But
approved.
what you're approving tonight is really on what you submitted in your packet. So
Right.
the garage doors are different than what is shown, than what he's showing you tonight from what you previously approved. It's a much
Laura,
more detailed garage doors.
And we've also added windows, whereas in
this
some...
was originally submitted for approval.
Okay.
And was approved in April, I guess.
Okay.
And we approved the architecture. I don't know if it was lot specific or some, but I think we approved that. And then this is the same thing, I think, is this is just in color, Jim? As
Yes,
this?
sir. Yes, sir,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
It's just in color. And so nothing has changed architecturally on the plan.
Okay, it just colorized.
Correct.
May I ask a question? How do you know specifically what the roof pitch is? Do you know what the roof pitch is?
Steve?
Yeah.
I haven't seen what it says.
These look like they have nicer roof pitches to them, what you previously approved.
It's the
If you
same.
look at the difference, I mean, the paint is much higher than what this drawing is showing.
It's the exact same. It's the exact same units, exact same building.
It may be just scale, Bob.
Okay, I'm just going by the dimensions. The dimensions here.
So it's just hard for us to tell if you don't have a real good
I just think the
architectural
drawings are very
drawing for us to
confusing
look
this
at, to see exactly what the roof pitch is.
But the roof pitch is denoted, it should actually be noted on the side
Yeah, it's on the-
elevation of the.
It's on the side elevation, right?
Yes, sir. It should call out the roof pitch on the original set that I turned in, not the set that I just gave you. The set that I just gave is a supplemental to what I submitted.
Hell, I can't read it.
One of the things that always bothers me is the stone ending on an outside corner like that. And I assume you're gonna be wrapping more stone and brick around the sides of the building, it sounds like, on your end units?
Yes, sir, we can do that. We have, the end unit on the right we can put a stone water table going down the side.
Yeah, that way it doesn't end on an outside corner.
Yeah. On the other application, you asked for a stone wall table around the entire
Yes.
building on all four sides.
Yes.
Much more enhanced garage doors,
I think-
varied window grids.
I think what we had, Bob, is we had asked him to do the water table all the way to the top of the first floor. Yeah, that, meaning that would be the water table, just a brick up to first floor, and I think this shows it brick all the way through the second floor, correct, Jim?
Yes, sir, correct.
With a metal eyebrow and then siding above it, correct?
Yes, sir. Correct.
Got it. Would we need a water table in addition to that?
But it's also to note, the unit on the far right, that wall is on the property line, as per the plat. So immediately to the right is an adjacent person's yard. It'll actually be abutting a fence.
Generally, a water table is installed because it's siding.
Yeah.
I mean, the water table,
So the
having a
sides
water
are
table
entirely
on,
brick?
having water table on the side of a brick elevation would
Right,
look
you won't
odd.
need
Well,
it.
yeah, that would. I would agree.
Yeah.
But I would imagine you'd want to wrap it around with whatever the same material is. So if your end unit's a brick water table, that end unit would have to be the same brick on the face front.
We can gladly wrap it. I'm fine with
Just to
that.
wrap the sides.
So
Yeah.
these are all brick on the side?
Yeah, no,
I
there's
can't
there's
read
a
them.
there's an eyebrow at the
Can you
top.
really see what the?
So this is brick.
what the-
Yes, ma'am. And then the second floor is brick. And
No,
then
I'm just comparing
the
the
attic
improvement
is
versus this one. I
is
can't
Oh,
decide.
so
I
this
don't
is
know.
brick and this is
See, the
brick and
problem
this
is
is
when
side.
they're from different sizes, it's hard to
Yeah.
tell.
Yeah.
And that's why it should be a detailed plan,
Right.
so you can really tell.
Right.
Because once you know what the measurement is,
Right.
it is what it is. Okay.
And the rear?
The rear is, there's notes on there as far as where the brick.
The whole rear is brick?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I think we need to just put at the end of this.
Okay, so the sides are brick, the rear is brick, so we're down to the details like the window grids, the garage doors, the doors, the roof pitch.
Don't have it. Okay. Just comment is, it's hard for us to say we approve something that is not in front of us to say this is the document we approve. So in future, I think that it would be important that, like, for example, I know what the roof pitch, he says it's one thing, you say it's one thing. You know, the roof pitch has been brought to our attention, so therefore, we have to question the roof pitch, and either I'm blind and I can't read it because I'm old, but I can't tell exactly what that roof pitch is. It looks like a 612, is it? You think, Bob?
It's a 612 on the roof plan.
Okay. And the reason for us wanting an 812 is because the other buildings in the neighborhood have 812?
No, sir. Only, the most recent building that y'all approved was 812, and it'll be an anomaly. The other ones don't have the 812. So you
We're
have,
talking about this one, Jim?
correct, you have that one, plus there's 3 other buildings that are already built. And those are 3-story units. And so,
The high-pitched roof didn't matter on a 3-story building.
I'm sorry?
The high-pitched roof didn't matter because it was a 3-story building.
Well, the one right there, which is adjacent to our buildings, is actually 2-story from the road. And
I think that once I know that my vote would be contingent upon getting staff approval of the changes that we think that have to be, so they're in writing, that we have them. Would that be appropriate, Angela? Okay.
so keep in mind, Cliff, you want me to put in writing all the changes that I've made from the original approval? Is that
I want the submission to be, whatever it is that we agree to that you're going to build, to be put in writing so that we have it, and that the staff approves it at the end of the day
Prior to
for
the
us.
building permit being
Prior to the
issued.
building permit being issued. See, a lot can get lost in translation, Jim.
Yes, sir.
And that's the last thing we need. We're not trying to obstruct you from building your building. You know, what we are trying to do is to make sure we understand what we're voting on, and that we make sure that staff knows exactly what we voted to do. And so in the absence of having it in absolute writing in front of us, where you're saying, I'll do this and I'll do that, and that's fine, you know, but the fact is, we still have to have it in writing, and then somebody's got to review it, so, and approve it at the end of the day, that it's got what we wanted as a group.
Okay.
So,
Fair enough.
rather than say that we're going to ask you to come back for us to look at what your finished paper product would be that we're going to approve, I'm going to suggest to the board that we do it based on staff representing and doing what we've requested and approving it before you get your building permit.
That sounds good.
So, can you rattle them off again? I'll write them down. So you're going with architecture shingles,
Yes, sir. Architectural shingles,
metal roof over garage and front
metal
door.
roof over the garages and front porches, as shown and where applicable. We're going to have metal roofs, will be all in the returns up in the eaves.
Okay.
We'll have metal roofs will be on the eyebrow.
Side elevation,
Yes, the side elevation will have brick
brick to second
to
story,
the second story. And
top
then-
of second story.
Then there'll be an eyebrow with the metal roof on top, and then siding. The rear of the building will be all brick.
The next thing is whatever material's on the end of the building, left or right, is going to be the material that you wrap around to the front door.
Okay. Do that.
Okay, with an eyebrow of metal material, great. Brick rear.
Got a couple more questions for you.
Okay.
My friend Tim over here, this board member, is that we were making comment about the columns. And do you have any comment that you would like to make? My comment's, what are the columns going to be made out of, number one?
Wood.
Wood? Can we get them as a PVC type, not PVC, but a, what do they call it,
Resin.
Pardon me?
The resin.
We want a composite column, not
We can do that.
wood columns, composite shingle shutters, if there are there shutters in this building?
We show some faux shutters, and they are composite material.
Okay, composite material, not plastic,
Yes, sir.
okay? Windows. Your windows are, what are they?
They're high-grade aluminum, vinyl.
Okay. The window that was already over here is already gone.
That was wood window, I believe.
It is. When you say you're going to put a vinyl window in, what brings to mind a metal window or a vinyl window is the cheapest of cheap things that you can buy. And what we're looking for is a higher quality, longer lasting window.
That's exactly what we put in, because if we put in the cheaper ones, you can pay for them twice, because they're a warranty nightmare. They'll leak. So
Wow.
we always put in the higher upgrades, because at the end of the day, it's a better window.
Can you be specific as to what kind of window you're going to put in to this building? a manufacturer and a product style. You know, obviously, we can talk about the muttons and how they're laid out and designed and changing them and make them look better. But what we're trying to do as a board in these townhouses and everything that's being built is, I've been the unfortunate recipient of building stuff that somebody told me it was a great product to build with, and 6 or 8 years down the line, I've got an unhappy homeowner that wants to ruin my name because I had a product fail. So what we're looking for is a consistent, long-term, I want to know how building's going to look 20 years from now.
Sure, I understand.
So, but I would like can you put that down, that we need to
You know,
approve
I guess the question is, are we specifying a manufacturer?
No, I'm not specifying the manufacturer, but what I want us to be able to see the window that's going to be put in. The other person that presented tonight brought a window style that he was going to put into his building. So if we approve this building and we don't talk, we got one person coming through saying, this is the windows I'm going to put in. The next person that comes in and doesn't say anything about the windows they're putting in.
Do
you follow what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying, but I don't think it's part of the submittal package as far as windows
Yeah,
being submitted.
it's material.
Should he show us that?
No, I mean, is it part of the submittal?
Well, he's not,
I see what you're saying, Marty. I
But
mean,
the
maybe,
style
is there
necessarily
somebody who went
isn't,
above and
the
beyond?
more information,
Or-
the better.
Well, you know, the typical things that we have that go bad in these houses are garage doors, windows, doors, trim. You know, we don't really have problems with framing because that's pretty standard of what we're going to do. We really don't have a whole lot of problems with brick once it's up. But those are the areas we have lots of problems. And so it's really important for us to understand exactly what's going to be put on that building so that we can take our best shot at that it's a quality product.
We've used the same window in another nearby project that's in Milton, very successfully, never had a leak.
Well, I may be barking up the wrong tree.
And,
I just,
So we've, you know, it's the same window that we use on our homes over $300,000 and above. So it's a you know, if you use cheaper windows, just pay for it twice. Unfortunately, I don't have the actual spec on it. I'm kind of at a loss on that one. I wasn't prepared for that one. So
Well, that's one of the things you can add to staff approval, I guess.
okay. If you can can we add that, Steve, to, not that we're demanding a specific window, but just so that you can show us the window that you're putting up, that if we have any questions, then we can address it prior to you building the building.
I can gladly, I'll drop off an entire window tomorrow. So that's not a problem.
I'm not trying to be difficult.
Oh, I understand.
All right, why don't, windows to staff for review. Is that fair? All right, here's what I got.
Drip cap. I don't think we got that in. Did we?
Yeah, we did.
Roofing?
You recommended that
I know that in the previous buildings, I've recommended drip cap for roofing. You know what I'm talking about?
No, sir, I don't understand.
Drip cap is when you use the heavier shingles. Most of the guys, you know, they leave Bob, is it an inch? That's on the reveal side of the shingle. So on the heavier shingles, what happens after several years of having them, they actually fold down on the sides. So we have asked the builders in the past to put drip cap along those edges, the ridge line, so we keep a nice straight line, and it makes it better. It's not a real expensive addition to add to your building, and it really makes it a nice building.
We can do that.
Okay, you want to add that soon? Roof drip cap.
Give me a,
Just say roof drip cap. Is that it?
yeah.
Okay, anybody?
All
Steve,
right.
since you were so
All right,
diligent.
so I'm gonna make a motion.
Okay.
Okay. To approve the 10-unit building at 13360 through 13378 Cannery? Canary?
Canary.
Canary at Hidden Forest. As submitted with the following additions, that the shingles shall be architecture shingles. Metal roofs over the garage and front door will be made of metal. Side elevation shall be bricked up to the top of the second story with an eyebrow going all the way across, made of metal. Is that worded? Good. The rear elevation shall be brick. The post and the shutters shall be made of composite materials. And the applicant shall submit windows to staff for review. And the last one, the add roof drift cap to the roof where needed. Is that, you're not gonna need it where the gutters.
Jim, you know what I'm talking about, though. It's just the little L-shaped metal that goes up alongside the fascia.
I know what you're talking about now.
Cool.
And just as for my own clarification, just that that the metal over your porches is just, basically we're just showing metal as shown on the elevations. That's correct, as I've got some of the, because some of them don't have the front door is recessed under the second floor.
Oh, okay.
So I just want to point that out.
You say wherever
Okay, got
applicable
it,
for the
yeah.
shed roofs.
Yeah.
Okay, so number 2 would be metal roofs over garage and metal roofs over front door where applicable. Okay?
We got it?
Staff approval.
Yep. To submit the final,
The on the windows, Angela?
For the whole, the permit, we'll submit, staff will approve the application for the permits issued.
Can I just ask, just so I'm clear, with the windows, is the board directing us to do varied grid patterns? Or just the same grid pattern throughout?
I just said as submitted.
Okay. I believe right now the drawing is showing it with the same grid pattern. It would be my recommendation to vary the grid patterns so that we have different look to each building. Gives
You
it
okay
more
with that, Jim?
identity. It's not a wood one, but it would give it much more identity, much more character.
you're not okay with changing the grid patterns at the top of the windows?
Yeah, that's one philosophical difference, I guess, Bob and myself have. It's kind of like the 1980s commercials of, Miller Lite, Bud Light. I just think that would make the building look, it's a 10-unit building. I think it just makes the building look too busy. And I think that it really would not go the look that we're going after.
I can tell you that drip cap, these other accoutrements that we're asking for, just for me, I think it is a personal thing you like or don't like, or a way you want it or you don't want it. I don't personally have a preference one way or the other. I'm more interested in the quality of the windows and the quality of the trim and the quality of that kind of stuff. If you sell your houses, you've done a good job. If you don't sell your houses, you didn't.
Yes, sir.
And our part is to make them as nice as we can possibly make them and make them aware that they are what the consumer thinks they're buying, a quality product. So,
My
We can let-
feeling on it was just that we have 10 units, and that's quite a number of units to be in a row. I mean, it's a large building, and the applicant said it's larger than a football field. I mean, that's a large,
well, we got varied garage doors, which were
we do have varied garage doors, but they're in that yes/no pattern. It's not like you have a 3 pattern, you have 2.
I got a comment for you. On your garage door pattern, let's say, lot 41, 39, 37 have Craftsman-style doors, yet they have traditional windows at the top. So Craftsman windows at the top to match those garage doors would probably be a better idea. What do you
I would
think?
agree with that.
I mean, it's- well, really starting on lot 33, 35, 37, 39, and 41. If you look at the garage doors, they are Craftsman-style doors with the window structure. And you've got, at the lot, you got 4 lights. We got 4 lights and 6 lights at the top of the windows. And tell me if, am I wrong, is that more traditional than it is
Yeah, it
Craftsman? So you got a Craftsman bottom and a traditional top. So I'd like to see that the window structure match from the garage doors to the upper windows.
That's a good way to change them.
Yeah, and that'll solve the other issue too.
And that solves the issue. It makes Bob happy. It makes your building consistent with, and it doesn't cost you any more money, whether you do them Craftsman style or you do them 4 or 6 light.
No problem, we can make the change.
Okay?
You're talking about the windows or the windows and the doors?
The doors, garage doors will stay the same.
Okay.
The windows at the top on the,
The units with the Craftsman style.
with the
garage
units
doors.
with the Craftsman style
I
garage
gotcha,
doors,
gotcha.
they have Craftsman style windows and they need to have Craftsman style windows on the face of the building.
Okay.
And I would include that that needs to be for the same for the front door.
Yes, sir.
And that may be that it's just a solid pane glass at the front door versus a traditional 9-light or whatever it would be. I guess it'd be a 9-light or 12-light.
Maybe a 4-light.
Or a
Yeah,
4,
four-light
but,
would be more-
but something that will be designated a Craftsman-style flare.
All right, so we'll just make the front door 4 light.
And
that's-
And-
staff will approve that?
And staff will approve it.
So the windows on the front elevation and the front door will be Craftsman-style windows?
On the buildings that have Craftsman-style
Doors.
garage
They
doors.
will match. Okay.
So the general idea is, as a concept, that we're trying to keep all the windows the same period they're supposed to be.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
Okay. Have we got everything in the motion now?
Angela, did you get that last one?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Need a second.
All right. So
I'll second that.
All in favor?
all right.
Jim, I know it's been painful, but thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate it, and just want to say thank you to Bob and Angela, and appreciate all your help and making this happen.
We hope that you sell these buildings with great ease. Okay. I guess that ends this is the correct form.
I'll have a thing for the Champions View. I've
You
got
know-
several of the, I don't know,
You all okay, and everybody agree?
I can share.
No, I'm okay.
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 You want me to turn down
It's a little warm.
It
in
is a
here.
little warm. Yeah, it's a,
Anybody say take a closer look?
Did anybody need a water?
Champions View.
I'm good.
all set, thanks.
Okay. Oh, good, good. You got it?
This item was removed. We're still making
Right,
pictures of the log.
yeah, I gotta ask if there's any public comment.
Okay. Want to start on the?
I don't see it.
Courtesy
Maybe I get to bring
review.
it with them.
Okay. Next, ladies and gentlemen, is our courtesy reviews. The applicant has, we've removed the first one, which was 6 Hills Phase 4. But we're going to open this up for public comment, for anybody who'd like to make public comment on 6 Hills.
My name is Joan Wonderly. I live at 765 Owens Lake Road in 6 Hills. And I'm here tonight to voice my opposition to variance number V13011 that was submitted by 6 Maples, Doug Hay, and Ashton Woods. I submit that Community Development Director Kathy Field ruled correctly when she denied Ashton Woods' plan for 15 houses on the development of Doug Hay's land. To date, there have been many denials on this land. We have 7 Community Development Director denials, 2 BZA denials, and a Superior Court denial because they did not file correctly. Six Maples is a second developer who's tried to develop this acreage, and both have been stopped by the ordinances, which are very clear. Ordinance 642397, which is what Kathy ruled on, requires that new subdivision streets be located at least 50 feet from any point on the boundaries of any pre-existing lots. Where the current developer wants to access the land from Owens Lake Road, there would only be 3 feet separating the proposed street from the neighbor's property lines. So the access would require a variance of 47 feet on either side. 47 feet on my side, there's a 50-foot access way. I am on the left-hand side. 47 feet would be 8 feet into my kitchen. On the other side, the Gonzalez residence, 47 feet from the property line would be 8 feet into their master bedroom and bathroom. Zoning ordinance further state that for any road built off an existing road, you can build one home for every 35 feet of frontage on an existing road. The access frontage on Owens Lake Road is 50 feet. That means one house, or technically 1.5 houses, and one driveway. That's how all the people that have community development directors have ruled on that. This is a legal protection for us and for all of Milton. These ordinances are in place specifically to prevent this kind of noise, traffic, safety, and other quality of life issues that this kind of development would cause. These decisions were readily available to the current developer. This variance is just another attempt to circumvent the ordinances, and I submit that community development ruled correctly, and I would like this ordinance denied. Thank you.
Thank you. Kathy, do they have any other entrances available to them to that property other than this? No. Okay. If I lived where you live, I would agree with what you have to say, personally. The guy bought the property, knows what he bought it to be used as. I can't speak for everybody on the board. I can only speak for myself.
Here's a picture of what the land looked like for 3.5 years when they say there was always a road there. Street, curb, grass, trees. That's what it looked like. And you can have that.
I know, I've been all over it. I remember.
Yeah. It's been an 8-year journey, and this would actually be our 4th trip to the BZA, 2 in Fulton County. The first one was denied. The second one, they were getting ready to deny it, and they said, the applicant said, let's wait. We became a city the next month, so then we came to Milton. So this will be our actual 4th trip to the Board of Zoning. Okay. Thank you.
Feel your pain.
Thanks.
Thank you. Next is Richard and Elizabeth, Champions View.
I have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is
You
the
guys
applicant
can-
not here?
He
No,
is
they
not.
pulled it off.
No, he's
Oh.
not here. The
They pulled it off,
DRB,
they just let
right,
public.
the DRB doesn't review
I'm up to
secondary
speed.
variances, so,
Okay.
yeah, he didn't have to come.
Hello, Richard. Hello, Elizabeth.
Hi, actually, I'm the swimming pool builder, Jim Paulson, at 2671 Ivy Creek Road, licensed pool builder out of Gwinnett County. This is Miss Libby Gita. I'm sorry, I moved away from the microphone. Miss Libby Gita, who's with me as well to answer any questions you might have.
Okay.
We proposed a 16 by 32 swimming pool, and once we did our site review and survey, we found out that there was, of course, a 75-foot and 50-foot easement that had been added in after they had bought the home 10, 12 years ago, and I guess this happened somewhere around 6 years ago. And the house actually sits inside the buffer, and we were, of course, proposing a variance to allow us to build a swimming pool with minimal impact on the yard. We've got some plans that are engineered, and wanted to see if I can be as detailed or as just brief as you like.
I got a question for you, Libby. The
Certainly.
neighbor that lives on the proposed pool side, are they okay with you?
We've
putting
got
the
in
pool there?
writing, in both cases, both neighbors as well, the immediate neighbors. And we have homeowners association approval.
Okay. How, is it fairly level from the
Actually,
To
the
the house,
topo,
to-
there
not
may or
from
may
the
not
back-
be
from the
topo
back
on
side
that.
side.
What you've got there is you've got about, in 40 foot of run, you've got about 4 foot of fall, maybe 5 foot. So what we're proposing first is, which is going to minimize any impact to the stream buffer, is right at the 26-foot mark. We're going to put a retaining wall, is what the proposal is. So this way we can use the fill from the pool to create a plateau and eliminate any runoff down the hill. To build without a retaining wall could be an issue with erosion. And of course, I'm state certified for erosion control, so we'll take every precaution to minimize any erosion
What are you going to
issues.
build the wall out of?
It's a interlocking paver from Belgard. It's a decorative. It's similar to Allen block.
Okay. Well, you bought it with, under certain guidelines, and my personal view is that we need to live by how you bought it. So as long as you don't have a problem with your neighbor, and your neighbors aren't upset about it, and we don't involve the state in terms of their stream buffer requirements.
Which will stay out of course.
That would be my questions. You got any questions, Bob?
No. I would agree with you.
Okay, so, somebody like, it's a courtesy review, so you're good to go. Enjoy your pool.
Is there anything you need from, okay, so there's no
We
second.
don't get to vote on this.
Okay.
This gets, just our recommendations get referred. So honestly, other than having the letter from your neighbor next door, because that's the person with the closest impact to the pool, then I can't see anything. Do you have anything, Kath? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
We'll be by to go swimming. Okay. Scottsdale Farm, Luca, I always mess up his name, so. Gendro. So I'm not gonna try to butcher it. Are these already up?
Scott Reese with Bromelo Reese and Associates, doing business at 13685 Highway 9, Milton, Georgia 3004. Okay, I'm here tonight representing Mr. Gianturco in the variance process for agricultural buildings on agriculturally zoned property. I would be glad to entertain any questions that you might have. I don't know what else I can say.
Are these just the half round with the Visqueen over top, or what are they?
They are greenhouses.
I understand that, but that's a broad definition.
There should be a plan in your packet of I hazard to say architectural, because I don't know if they're buildings or structures. So, but there is we submitted the design. But this is a structure that absolutely form follows function. So there's not anything that we can do to change a greenhouse.
Just for clarification, it's here because the Northwest overlay, like the other overlays, have specific requirements for commercial buildings. These are commercial greenhouses. But the requirements that we have right now require, brick and stone and a certain amount of windows, and certain type of roof and all of that. And obviously, this type of building just doesn't conform to that. And we just don't have any leeway for a greenhouse or other legitimate agricultural uses right now, so.
But he's selling agricultural products, so he's using it as
Right,
agricultural.
so it's an allowed use, we just.
It seems to be kind of an oversight in the overlay.
We got any complaints from the community?
No, he seems to own most of the property around it, and there have been none that I'm aware of. So he surrounds it with his property. Property directly to the north is commercially zoned, which is Scottsdale Farms.
This may be a stupid question.
Yes, sir. I love those.
But these are fairly transportable. They're not really permanent structures.
Well, these have permanent footings.
Okay. Just bolted down, right?
Well, there are, stanchions in the
Right.
ground. But, I mean, as far as, they're bolted together, metal frame, bolted to a concrete footing.
So my comment to staff is, does that make this this is not like you take a bulldozer and knock it down. It's take a crescent wrench and take it apart.
Yeah, but he's gonna have to meet building code, which is gonna require him to strap them down.
It's still-
Reload and uplift.
It's still considered a structure, needs building permits and all of that.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions? I mean, my comments would be if there's no complaints from the community about it and he's using it as agricultural use and there's no,
I just have one comment.
Okay.
I just wanna make sure about night lighting, that, we don't get an excessive night sky glow.
is it lit? Other than this,
Not at present. And, I submit that it is an agricultural use, and it would meet all the applicable agricultural zoning characteristics for night lighting, or if there are any for agricultural use. And if there are, in the continuation of the building permit process, it will have to be brought into compliance if it is not at present.
I don't really have a whole lot of questions about it. I know exactly what it
understand
is.
it's courtesy review. Thank you.
Thank you.
Took a picture on Sunday.
Is there any public comment on the greenhouses? In absence of that, we're going to go to New Providence Highland Communities. Marty Eng?
I'm sorry, I wasn't quick enough, Mr. Littleton. I do have a quick comment about what was just before you.
Okay.
Your head was down, you didn't see me.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Just to confirm, was that a courtesy review?
It was.
Okay, just a couple of quick points. I know the question had been raised as to whether or not they were temporary structures. They are permanent structures, so I think this is a matter of precedent. It's important with any property that's in the Birmingham Crossroads area and or Northwest Fulton overlay area, is that it is a permanent structure. I guess a question I have for the record is, were these already constructed before they came before the Design Review Board? And I'm wondering if staff could speak to that.
I suspect the viewpoint of the owner was it's easier to ask for forgiveness than it is to.
Yeah, I think that's just as part of this, because it's not just this property, but I think any property that under the policies of the City of Milton, there's a process in place for a very particular purpose, is that before a structure is put into place, it's intended to come to the Design Review Board. So as a matter of record, I think it's important, whether it be this property or others, that we do take the opportunity to pause and remind any applicant that it's important to go through the appropriate process first and get the review of the ladies and gentlemen that I'm standing before this evening. The process is a legal process. It was put in place by council with the support of citizens for a very intended purpose. Secondly, I would like to say that as part of the structure of those permanent structures that were put in place, there was some land disturbance and clearing that occurred before that they were constructed. Tree recompense, as a matter of record, was supposed to be put into place. That tree recompense has not occurred to date. And so I think, again, as a matter of record, even though it's a courtesy review, I would ask that staff, as well as the Design Review Board, please follow up on the tree recompense that's required, because the structures that are there are now much more visible. And the whole intent of a Northwest Fulton overlay, as well as the Birmingham Crossroads, which is adjacent to this, is to ensure that the driver by continues to have a scenic perspective. The more of these structures that don't abide by the overlay, and the more trees that are cut down without recompense and without replanting, unfortunately, we lose the very environment that we all are here to help to protect. So I think that there's a number of things that are of concern, that structures are going up without the appropriate approvals, land disturbance is occurring under false pretense, and that thirdly, tree recompense, that again is a regulation that was put in place legally, has not been required as a matter of law. So that follow-up, I think, is pretty important. And the other would be that these structures are part of a conditional commercial activity that's occurring as part of that entire activity.
It's considered agricultural, isn't it?
Well, there's conditional C1 land as well as AG1 land, and there was also some land disturbance that was under the premise of expanding the business, and then it became a ball field, and they had to then come back and get after approval. So there's been a couple of situations where appropriate processes were not followed, and I think that it's not just for this one parcel, but I think as a matter of course for our entire city, it's important that as citizens we expect those to be upheld, and that's why we have policies in place. And I, as one citizen that has lived here now for approaching 30 years, would hope that we would uphold those policies. It's part of what allows all of our property values to be maintained. And for the very rural nature of our community, whether it's Highway 9, whether it's Crabapple, whether it's Milton in the northwest quadrant, these policies are in place for a very definitive reason. And every board and every staff member has an obligation, as we do as citizens, to expect those to be upheld. So I would be remiss if I didn't ask for your adherence to these policies as we work through some of these this evening, but also going forward. And I appreciate all that you guys do, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for helping to uphold our policies. And I hope that staff that's here this evening will help to follow up on a number of those points, hopefully that are now a matter of record. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Scott?
Yes.
In
response, please.
I guess my basic questions for you to respond is the tree recompense of obviously, did a land disturbance permit get pulled when it was graded out?
A land disturbance permit was approved, signed off.
A grading permit, yes.
Pardon me?
A grading permit was
Okay.
approved.
The grading permit or land disturbance permit, depending on semantics, depicted all of the improvements that were constructed. We went through the full special use process for the athletic field. There's nothing been hidden. We've gone through all of the steps. The permitting process, the GC or builder went to the city, obtained what he was told were the applicable permits for all the construction.
For the greenhouses?
He went, they gave him a electrical permit and a gas permit. And since these structures kind of fit in a special case, at that point, it was determined, whether correctly or incorrectly, that a building permit per se for the greenhouses was not necessary. And then there seems to be, well, the Northwest overlay, I guess, there's still a little bit of, differing of opinion as far as agricultural use and commercial use. You know, I've been growing cows myself for 50 years in the city of Milton. Well, it was unincorporated Fulton County, and my forebears for many generations. You know, some people, I guess, would say it's not an agricultural use if we sell those animals for money, or if corn or cotton or anything else. These greenhouses are going to be producing plants on site that will then be taken and sold, and that is absolutely an agricultural use. But is agricultural uses a commercial use? I guess so. But it is a special part of the commercial use. But I just want to bring it, you know, everything was permitted, everything, there was nothing hidden. The grading plan, or LDP, depicted the proposed greenhouses. The tree ordinance, there was a tree plan. Everything has been submitted to the city. As far as I know, there is no recompense that was designed on that LDP. There's none shown on it. So I hope that answered your questions.
Okay. You know, really, I believe that this issue is above our pay grade. You know, I think it's more of a complicated legal issue that goes above us, and all we can do is look at what's in front of us and say we like it or we don't like it. You know.
And I understand.
Though I may be incorrect, it still looks like a portable
Yeah.
building to me because it can be easily removed. As far as what timelines that permits and all those things were pulled, that's a staff-related issue, and that's a council level.
Yes.
That's their issues. Our issue is there's nothing for us to really talk about in terms of these buildings because they are what they are, and whether they already exist or they don't exist, I don't know that our position would change much had they not been built yet. Do they need to be permitted? Or if your guy followed all the rules that he was told to follow, and that has now turned out to be that there's an additional step that we need to take. The fact is, we're all human beings, staff level or not, and in a gray area like this, one man's opinion is another man's dislike.
Correct.
So I'm not taking up for you, and I'm not taking up for Julie or that position. I'm just, it's above us.
Fully understand. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Just to clarify, the point was indeed to have staff help to kind of rectify maybe some of those situations, both as it speaks to the process, and with Kathy being here this evening, it was my understanding that the first permit that had come, this was according to staff and the city manager, that there had been some confusion about the first applications that had come forward. So I think there is a question about timing. Because this was before you guys this evening, it was appropriate to speak since there was an opportunity for public comment, and any opportunity that there is for us to uphold those policies is pretty important. And it was also our understanding that tree recompense was part of the process that was to be had since there was land disturbance and grading that had taken place. And I think from a design review standpoint, the DRB does look at things that include buffering of certain density and whether it's considered an agricultural building or not. The view from the road is something the DRB does have the preview to comment on. And so with that, that's why the tree recompense is also mentioned, because the view from the road is now much more visible than it would have been before the trees were removed. And so just, again, as a matter of preview, I think that is something the DRB, whether it be this opportunity or another, hopefully tree coverage is always something that you guys take into consideration. So thank you.
Well, you've just
Thank you to
given me a
staff.
gateway into another subject that's in line. It's come to the board's attention that, and this is speaking to the general public, not specifically you, but that, a lot of people ride down the streets, the roads that we have, Freemanville being a perfect example. I live on that road. And we pull up to a beautiful subdivision, but the houses back up to Freemanville or Hopewell or Providence or any of the big roads. And you see a 3-story structure, a basement and 2 stories of a big house. And there's some debate on whether you call that a buffer or you call that, what was the other word, Angela, that we, setback buffer?
Proposed line of sight.
And so we couldn't really come up with a term, but the public, what they're really asking for is that the line of sight from these roads, that we don't take down all the trees from the road, even if the house is 250 feet off the road, and where you're driving down the road and all you see is a row of 3-story buildings that have not been appropriately landscaped. We certainly are attentive and I think all of us have the same opinion of trying to make our city look good from all aspects of view. So on the board level, I'm bringing up for our board discussion at another point that we talk about line of sight view, because that's been a comment in the past. It's been a comment about a line of sight elevation for a street sign or for whatever it might be. It's hard to sit on this side of the table and know what something's going to look like just because somebody gives you a 7 by 11, just a rendering of a sign, because you don't get the conceptual view of it or a building. So in keeping with what you just said, it is something that staff and the board, for what we have to put into it, we want to take and look into to try to work our way towards a goal that's more common for the community.
We appreciate that very much, and I think that your comments are very much in line with many of the citizens that, regardless of where you live, is that line of sight is huge. Scenic byways are important as part of what defines Milton. Just a quick example, being in Vero Beach for Thanksgiving, they go to great effort within any development, even a subdivision, to save the live oaks. It was a great example, is that you can build a subdivision and you can still save the trees. It is possible, and other communities do it and do it quite well. So perhaps when you're looking at line of sight and looking at some of those enhancements, we could look to some of those other communities that have done a very solid job of that. So just thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay. I guess we're back to Highland. Mr. Anker, how are you?
Good evening. I'm Marty Anker with Highland Communities. We're a custom home builder here in Milton, and are building in 6 or 7 different locations around town. And have been here for a few years and love where we build, love where we live. This particular topic that we are bringing to you tonight is a 6.5 acre parcel of land that we own on New Providence Road, 12725 New Providence. And beautiful piece of land, nice topography. It fortunately and unfortunately is bordered on 2 sides by a creek and a stream, which makes for beautiful home sites, but perhaps some challenging soils. And as we were designing this site, on the 6.5 acres, we had originally intended to get greater density than 3 lots, but we found that the soils conditions kind of dictated that that was about all we were going to get without some acrobatics and rezoning to cram them in there. So we've designed a site plan for the 3 lots with a shared private drive, and the lots are typically 2 to 2.5 acres. As you can do the math there on 6.5 acres. And in that 3-lot condition, we ended up with the flag lot zoning condition, I guess it is, that requires certain setbacks front to back. And I guess the typical flag lot would be houses are running parallel to the main road, and that those setbacks would require adequate distance front to back of those houses. The way that we needed to lay this site out for the quality of the soils for the septic systems and the topography and also the stream buffers has allowed us to lay the homes out that are going to be running perpendicular rather than parallel to New Providence Road. So the 3 lots that we have there, you'll see the shared driveway runs into New Providence Road, and then the 3 lots will come off to the south side of that driveway. We met with Angela. She was very helpful explaining this flag lot condition to us, and we're able to modify the lots 1 and 3, the front lot and the back lot, to take those setbacks into account. The challenge we had was on the center lot, which is also one of the largest lots, but narrower. We really didn't have adequate room to do that because of a plume of unsuitable soil that runs down a valley to the creek in the back, and the lay of the land, the topography, really dictated that this is how we place the houses on the land. So we are here tonight to propose that the middle lot, Lot 2, be allowed to have what I guess is technically front and rear setbacks, but as we're going to lay the houses out, they would really be side setbacks only on Lot 2 of 25 feet. Keeping in mind that the front lot will still maintain the flag lot setbacks. So the distance between House 1 and House 2 will be 75 feet between those structures and 85 feet between Lot 2 and Lot 3 in the back.
You guys got any questions on there? Now, if you're asking us for the variance for this front setback change, have you got, I mean, I know where the property is, but I can't say that I paid attention to that specific piece of property. Our line of sight view, because I assume these would be fairly large houses.
Yes.
Can you address the line of sight views from Providence?
Sure. The let's see if I can do this one. Might need your help. Yeah, the first house, if you look at the distance here, well, let's look at it over here. Here's the 60-foot building line off of the property, and the way that this first lot is going to be oriented, the house will sit kind of diagonally to New Providence Road. So the front of the house will be here. So the front will be dressed up and beautiful, and they will be fairly upscale houses. So the landscape buffer along New Providence, going into a gated entry here on the driveway, will be nicely landscaped. There are a couple of specimen, I believe they're
Birch.
birch?
Looks like it. What's on the plan?
Okay. Well,
You got two birches
The
and a
plan
pine.
must be right. But they're beautiful specimen trees, and our plan is to trim them up and kind of canopy them and uplight them so that the view corridor coming up and down New Providence really is very striking.
But we're trying to just get away from the, looking at the back views or the side views of a real tall structure.
Right, yeah. And the way that the topography works here is that it does slope down back toward the creeks. So these will all be either walkout basements or side daylight basements. So the massing on the side of this house and the front of this house will be 2 stories.
Okay. You got a question there, Bob?
No, I'd just like to make a recommendation.
Okay.
This lot abuts New Providence Road, which is identified in the Milton Comprehensive Plan as one of our city rural view shed corridors.
Okay.
So as such, I would like the board to make a recommendation that would allow for a 60-foot undisturbed deep area along the rural view shed, which would be the area all along New Providence Road. So it'd be a 60-foot wide undisturbed area. And where sparsely vegetated, additional vegetation may be required as directed by the city arborist. And that the structure that's adjacent to the rural view shed, which would be the one house that is on lot 1, be subject to review by the city architect, which would be myself, to ensure that the side elevation that is facing New Providence is equal to the proposed front elevation. And I'm pretty familiar with Mr. Anker's product, and I don't think he would have a problem meeting those requirements, quite frankly.
You know, what we're looking for, going back to the line, you know, the road view, line of sight view. The only problem I have with the statement that we want to do it as an undisturbed buffer is sometimes it's not all that pretty, and we don't get to see what it is, you know, and if we tell you that it's undisturbed, you leave it undisturbed and it doesn't look good. So what I would ask is that from the arborist and the city architect, that they actually get to see what the line sight view is going to be, and then approve whatever plan would be that would keep in mind our line of sight view, and what was the other word you just used?
The view shed.
The rural
The
view shed.
rural view shed. Okay.
I'll have to look that one up.
Yeah, so, but the whole idea behind it is just not to have these big houses that just
Right.
plop out of nowhere.
With massing on the main road.
Right.
Yeah,
You know?
absolutely.
I actually, while you were presenting what you did, my thought was, well, if you're going is it east or north on Providence? The view of lot number 1's not going to be very much. But if you're going south or west, it's going to be a good view, because you're going to view the real face of the house.
Yeah.
So the line of sight view to the face of the house, when you're going on the smaller section right here, it might be that, you know, that we used to call it a golf course cut for the trees. So you get the height up, you put the lights in, and you'd be able to make it shine that way. But being able to see the face of a real pretty house coming in that direction is a good thing. We're just opposed to the side and rear elevations being so massive, and having something that's an organized, good quality field for that rural, what everybody really wants to buy. That's what we're looking for. So our direction to staff would be, that's what we're looking for, and looking for a plan, a landscape plan that shows how it's going to be from the view of the road.
Yeah, our thought was that with our first building permit submittal, or sooner if you would like, to present the fencing, monumentation, and landscape plan for what we propose to do here.
Okay.
And that will really define, we've got those two big specimen trees there. We'll do some hedging and plantings, and we'll have, probably some annuals at the entrance. But we'd be happy to submit that along with our first permit.
So the recommendation would be, if you want to make it, would be to have the applicant be required to submit in his landscape plan demonstrating that, at least in that 60-foot area, that we're meeting what the city arborist would deem appropriate for a rural view shed in landscaping, and that the architectural character for that lot one that abuts the roadway meet certain standards that would be equal to, say, the front of the house.
Does the rule
on the side and rear
view shed does that statement cover the line of sight?
The intent of that whole statement was to maintain that rural line of sight.
Okay. Well, as long as they understand what we're asking for, then it's.
I have no idea. Is there a definition with species and examples?
No, the whole idea, Marty, was to keep that open so that we can work with you.
Okay.
As far as, our concern was just that we address that 60-foot area.
Sure.
To make sure that we are maintaining it, that we're not just coming in, opening it all up, leaving it as an open area, and then people drive by and say, wow, look, this is no longer a mill.
And to that point, it would be fenced with columns and landscaping along that section. So we can submit the landscape plan to make sure we're in agreement.
The recommendation would be that you come in and work with the city arborist and myself for the building, and just to ensure that we meet that criteria.
Good.
And I've seen your product, and I don't think you've got a problem.
Thank you.
Marty, from Marty, it's great to see you.
Thank you. Thank you all, ladies and
Thank you.
gentlemen.
Have a good evening.
Any comments other than the rule we should?
No. Do we have any public comment on this property on New Providence? Any comment from board? Onward and moving. 13980 Freemanville Road, Fuqua and Associates.
Good evening, Richard Warnick, 1365 Carverton Lane in Alpharetta. This is Phase 5 of Triple Crown. I was the original developer of Triple Crown, and we've been working with the homeowner association on this additional Phase 5. Basically, the rezoning request is for CUP to make it consistent with Triple Crown. And Fuqua and Associates is developing this last phase, and I have been working with Tommy, and he will be the builder of all the houses, and he probably built 40% of Triple Crown originally, so the consistency will be evident. And the setbacks that's being requested under CUP request here is consistent with what Triple Crown is. And we've had the public meeting. There was one person that showed up for the public meeting at the Triple Crown Clubhouse. So do you have any questions, what we're trying to do?
I'm going to defer to Bob right this moment.
I would have the same comment that I had on there's several applications tonight that I'm going to make the same comment about the rural view shed. Birmingham and Freemanville, and these are all roads that are on the comprehensive plan as being identified. And these lots do abut and back up to those. So the back of those houses would back up to Freemanville. And I would make the same comment that I would like the applicant to work with staff and the city arborist on a 60-foot area to make sure it's landscaped correctly, and that the back of the houses are subject to architectural review by the city architect, myself, to ensure that they have a quality character that meets the Milton standard, so that when people are driving by, it just looks appropriate.
I live not even a mile from that property. So I live on Freemanville, the first curve. It looks like they've moved dirt and built a berm along Freemanville Road, is that correct?
Correct, that's correct.
Okay. And then staff, we had talked about berms in the past, and I guess that's a moot point at this point since it's already there, but,
Not really.
had you thought about what the landscape plan would be on Freemanville Road?
Yes, so we've been working with Mark Law, and he's made some recommendations, and we have a plan that we're going to re-landscape that berm, yeah.
I love Lake Haven. It's a real pretty subdivision. But if you go down there, the first 9 houses they built on that one corner, even though they're 300 feet off the road, you drive up the road and it's these massive houses that you see from the road itself. So I guess that would be what we would want to direct staff as terms of accomplishment for me. Is how do we know what it's going to really look like at the end of the day? Because you look at Lake Haven, and as pretty as those houses are, you know, I don't know that obviously that project didn't come before us, or I don't think it did it, Angela?
Not the house, not the design of the houses.
Okay. But when this was approved, I don't know that anybody on our review side thought about, if the house is going to be 250 feet off the road, you think that'd be plenty? You know, that you wouldn't really see that house. Now, maybe over a period of years that might be true, but that would be our concern and what we would like to address so that we don't have that going up and down our road, because candidly for me, I'd rather have the houses face Freemanville Road and be a pretty house on the road, but obviously as a developer, that's not going to be your view. So I'm just asking for the developer to be mindful of that view that we're going to get as we drive down Freemanville Road.
And I'd like the board to make the same recommendation, so when it goes in front of the council, that recommendation's there, that the city arborist would look at that 60-foot area and approve a landscape plan that would meet those rural viewshed criteria that most people enjoy while they drive up and down these roads that have been identified in the comprehensive plan as rural viewsheds.
Which would
And
include
that the
line sight.
houses be reviewed, the backs, so that we can ensure that the backs of those homes have the architectural character that meet the same pretty much as the front of most homes. And the other thing I'd like to bring to the board's attention is that I believe this area of Freemanville also is identified as a Milton Trail, which actually goes into the right-of-way. And so that the developer would have to either build it or, I guess there's also an option that he could just, put money aside, money into the fund. So I'm not sure how this developer is planning on doing that, but if it does affect on the Milton Trail, I'd like to make sure that that's incorporated. The trail's been an important part of our comprehensive plan as well. I'd like to see that in there.
Once we pass that, once they build these properties, they develop it, if we don't have something, an arrangement made for that property, tying it to the deed or homeowner association for that trail, then you'll ultimately have conflict at the end of the day, because you'll lose some of your ability to develop the trail.
Right. And the trail is on the right-of-way. And if there's not enough right-of-way, then he's going to end up having to dedicate a certain amount of his property over to the city in order to maintain that trail.
But does the trail go into the berm? Is the right-of-way into the berm? Where's the berm start at the end of the right-of-way?
Berm should be all on the
Berm.
property.
The berm's on the property, yeah.
It is, okay.
Outside the
So
right-of-way.
the berm shouldn't be in the right of way.
Okay.
But I'm not familiar with this trail. Is there a long-term plan for some type of trail on Freemanville Road?
It goes up Freeman.
A walking trail, biking trail, what is it?
Yeah, there's different cross-sections for different areas. If you want, for the next meeting, I could bring in those cross-sections and have Carter Lucas, the director.
Yeah, I think it'd be good education.
Yeah.
I had never heard of
Explain
it.
the
Have
trail
you?
system to you.
I don't know the details of the trail. I've known about the trail, and we put a
I
trail
could have him
system in
bring it
Marietta.
and he
So
can give you a quick presentation on the different cross-sections and where they're applied.
It's bike, equestrian, and walking.
It is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The materials and widths and all that are different areas.
Right. I just wanted you to be aware that that trail would exist in this area and it should be addressed, and that the back of those houses should be subject to architectural review by staff. and that 60-foot area should be reviewed by the city arborist to make sure that we're maintaining the landscape that's commonly appreciated on these rural view shed corridors.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess, Bob, a comment I would have, I understand the view shed corridors, but I really think we need to be looking at the entire city doing the same thing.
Well, we're trying to apply these, as these projects are coming in, as you can see, we're trying to apply, city staff is trying to apply these kind of recommendations and ultimately ending up in conditions by the council, if so approved by them, to ensure that we're maintaining this citywide. So every time one of these come before you, you'll see me making a recommendation from this point forward to address these issues, to be very consistent with every new development that's done in Milton, to ensure that these view sheds and these corridors are maintained, and the backs of the buildings have the architectural character that we so enjoy with a rustic nature.
I think it's our plan, Kathy can confirm it, that eventually we will have a policy in place for the entire city. Until we can do that, we're going to do it this way.
That'd be helpful. Okay, good.
Thank you. And
Okay.
Do you have any questions for us?
No, we're consistent with what you've described, and we're in that process as well. Yeah.
Great.
Good.
Do we have any public comment?
Could I just get a show of hands? Were there any other public comments for this issue? Just a show of hands. Okay.
Hello, I'm Julie Zonner-Bailey. A lot of folks are here with concerns about CUPs, and so I just want to applaud some of the comments that were just made. Just as a matter of record, it's a little tough to hear out here in the gallery, so if you guys could speak into your microphone, it would help us, because we were hearing some great things. I just didn't get to hear all of them. Things that I would like to just applaud would be, one, something like a 60-foot buffer to protect that view shed. Secondly, I heard some conversation about a berm. The overlays that are in place actually don't allow for berms, and so even if there's a berm now, obviously mounds of dirt can always be taken back to a non-berm sort of environment if you're looking at buffers. So that would be a consideration of staff, is that mounds of dirt, yes, takes a little bit of movement, but berms can be rectified. But I believe that the overlays in some of the areas of Milton actually don't allow for berms because it's a more urban sort of environment. And in keeping with the statements that were just made about the rural environment, everything that we can do collectively and as boards makes such a huge difference. So just, even though there may not be an overriding policy today, everything that's before you this evening and going forward until that policy is in place, fortunately you guys have the ability to impose some things that would be in keeping with that eventual policy. But my request would be that we don't wait for a long-term policy when we know some good things that could be done, and I think you guys have had some discussions about those this evening. And as just a citizen representing a lot of other folks that have similar concerns, just want to thank you for those conversations, and hopefully you would apply those to this CUP and consider that when we consider areas that perhaps are not appropriate for CUPs in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comment? Any comment from the board? Okay. Next, Piedmont Atlantic Capital, 14738 Birmingham Road.
Yes, my name is Craig Harper. I'm principal with Piedmont Atlantic Capital. We currently have under contract the property that you mentioned. And I just wanted to briefly go over what we're planning to do. This is a 23-acre tract that is on Birmingham Highway. It is bounded by Arcaro subdivision, Arcaro Triple Crown subdivision to the south. And to the north, it's bounded by, I think, several flag-shaped lots that exceed an acre. What we're asking, just like the prior gentleman, is to a CUP designation with the substantially the same setbacks and other conditions that are found in the adjacent Arcaro subdivision. The Arcaro subdivision, we met with some of the folks yesterday for the first time, and I think there is some dissension to this project. I think it primarily revolves around the fact that some of the folks in the Arcaro subdivision were not aware that there could be a second phase to this project. We intend to access the property from the Arcaro subdivision through a road which has currently been dedicated to Fulton County and now to the city of Milton when Arcaro was developed originally. We were hoping to maintain, we were hoping that this would be a very positive thing since we would minimize the impact of the development to the surrounding community and also maintain, I've heard several people speak tonight about maintaining the rural nature of Milton. And certainly by accessing through Arcaro, we are able to do that and have minimal impact on the surrounding community. As you can see, the development contains 17 lots on 23 acres. There are streams through the property. We've had to do some extensive work around with those streams. We've got 9 lots that are abutting the streams. And I guess at this time, I'll just take any questions you might have.
I'm going to defer to you, Bob, to get you to make your comments.
This is another one of those subdivisions that I'd like to again ask the board for the exact same language on lots 8, 9, and 10, which abut Birmingham Highway, to allow for a 60-foot buffer, well, not buffer, but a 60-foot area to be approved by the city arborist to maintain landscaping, and for the houses that back up to Birmingham Highway 8, 9, and 10 lots to be subject to city architectural review to ensure that we maintain the look along Birmingham Highway that we're all used to enjoying.
Okay.
So it's very consistent. All of these subdivisions that are on the corridors that are identified in the comp plan as rural view sheds, I'm going to be making these same recommendations tonight.
Can everybody hear me back there? No. Okay. Sorry.
I might add, if I could, that I'd be able to mention this, that our intention is to sell these lots to custom home builders. In turn, they will build houses that will be of similar style, size, and finish to the ones that are present in Arcaro currently. And our pricing for these homes we anticipate to be between $750,000 and $1 million.
Okay.
Again, it's consistent with Arcaro.
My first question is going to be directed probably to the staff for everybody that's out here that may be for it or opposing it. The road that comes off the existing subdivision, does that road exist now, or is that just grass? Jury yard. Who actually owns the road?
City of Milton.
City of Milton owns this road. The road, is it already platted?
It's on the final plat. I have that.
Okay.
It is right of way dedicated to the city.
Okay. So, at the time that the properties were bought that are surrounding that road, was that on their plats at the time that they bought their houses?
It would have been on the plat.
I have the final plat.
Unfortunately, the sales center probably did not make that clear, but it would have been on the plat. Now, if it's a question of whether or not they knew to go look at the plat. It's not something that's typically readily offered
to sales.
So it
Was
wasn't
it-
necessarily promoted to the consuming public
What-
that this road existed,
Was this,
Are-
was
are
this,
you- are you
was this
making-
with Fulton County or City of Milton?
Fulton County.
Well, it's Fulton County.
Okay, well, I have experience with that. I would clarify that in
Well, we
fact.
have the plat, so we know.
Well, yeah, well, we had plats too and they were wrong, okay? I'm just saying, I've been down that road, we spent a lot of money on attorneys and found it to be incorrect. So I would just
We'll verify
double
the
check
plat.
that. Because in fact, Fulton County did a lot of recording that was incorrect. So I would verify first.
Okay.
That's one comment I have. My second question would be, what are the lot sizes here? Average? Just
We average 1.2. We've got lots ranging from a little over 1 acre on up to 2.4 acres.
Okay.
Again, our lot sizes are a little bit larger than the adjacent property of Cara on average.
So the two houses on each side of the road that does not exist yet, those two homeowners had no idea that they had a right-of-way that went through the center of their property?
They should have. I mean, I'm sure they're going to be speaking tonight, so you
Okay.
can ask them that question. But we've done research through attorneys, and we've had some of the staff members and other folks to research through the Fulton County records, and all indications are the road was dedicated, and it does appear on the final plat, which I'll be glad to have someone look at if they'd like to.
So essentially what you would do is if you had to come off of Birmingham, you'd lose a lot.
Well, we'd lose more than that. I mean, you know, we've got 300 foot of roadway to access the property currently. So
Right.
there's a substantial cost involvement in coming off of Birmingham Highway.
Okay.
Yeah, I see, I noticed a lot of the stream buffers throughout the property. I guess my question, comment or question would be, and Bob, feel free to comment. I see it running through several of these proposed lots, and that's going to mean the house is going to have to set further up to the street. So that would be a concern. That means you've got setback buffers, variances that probably may not be met. Particularly, I'd say 13, 14, 15, 16, 12, 2.
We typically don't give variances for self-imposed hardships, so it would be up to the applicant to make sure before he got this plat final that he can fit the houses that he wants on there. We wouldn't typically.
Understand, but I'm just saying from a streetscape perspective, which is what we look at, that could be challenging.
It would. It would limit where you could put a house on the property.
And we've seen those before, so.
If I might interject here, we already have a plan showing where we project the houses to be located on the site. And again, we are moving the houses no further than they already exist in Arcaro, the adjacent subdivision, and we've tried to maintain a large as possible rear yard so that we can keep it wooded and allow for maintain as much woods as we can on the property.
Mm-hmm.
So again, everything we've done here is consistent with the adjacent subdivision.
Okay. Well, my only question was really about the road going back in. Whether or not it's going to be a quality building and project, I can already see that it's going to be a nice property, but obviously the folks that live there have got a lot to say. I'm sure they're going to have a lot to say about what's there, and
I understand it. I certainly understand their concerns, especially if they didn't think it was going to be a phase 2 possibly down the road. I understand that. We will do everything we can to work with them to provide landscaping and whatnot to help mitigate their concerns.
And line of sight.
One more thing I just want to add too, that we're trying to do the best we can by existing neighbors. There's an existing home on the property now in this corner, and we intend to maintain that as a construction entrance throughout both the development and the construction of the home, so as not to have trades running through the subdivision.
Right. Okay. Anybody else have any questions that they would like to ask at this point? Obviously, this is just a courtesy review, so it's not something we stick our hands up and vote on. The only question I really had is the one at the entrance and if the public knew about it. So so I'm going to open this up for public comment.
And just to clarify, each side opposing and for has 10 minutes, and since I can't quite get the clock up there to work, I'm going to keep track of it on my phone, and I'll try and each side.
Each side.
So you may want to speak with your neighbors and get a consensus or appoint somebody to speak for you.
For or against?
Jeff Perkins, I'm 14830 Birmingham Highway, and I am against what is currently proposed as far as the rezoning. We own property that is just adjacent to this proposed site. It's on the north side, adjacent to lots 4, 5, 6, and 7. And we have a flag lot that runs along that. We purchased the property about 4.5 acres with the intent of having privacy back there. And obviously, this changes that, and just as was indicated earlier with regards to the view and the desire to have setbacks from the road, we would desire to have an increase in setback for those 4 lots. So the rear setback, I'd like to have that be increased to a 60-foot undisturbed setback, similar to what you are requiring or what you'd like to see on the road frontage.
All right, I'm going to, in essence of your question, so can we do that, Angela or Kathy?
So I think
Can we do one already?
you can make. I mean, you can make the recommendation.
It's a recommendation.
Yeah.
And the board would have to vote on
See
it.
fit. Because he's asking for 30 feet right now, so yeah.
Is there enough room on this lot to put a house and give him what he wants?
That would be a question for the. It looks like. I mean, with the size. Of
Well, I'm asking the developer.
the
I can't tell how far the distance is on lots 4, 5, 6, and 7 from the rear of the property. House setbacks. Uh-huh.
I showed you the aerial of the property. I gave you that.
Right.
Yes, I provided an aerial to the board or to the committee to look at. And what we've got here is an access road that is adjacent to this property that accesses his home and the other homes that are running along that way.
Okay.
So we're actually bordering an access road here.
Okay.
And the other thing I find a little bit unusual is that, we talk about buffers and whatnot. This is the same use. This is homes, both homes on each side. So I don't know what to say other than it just seems a little bit uncommon to try to request a buffer against the same use between properties, especially as we're bordering an access road to this other property.
Okay. All right.
Well, he's not a development either, and you are, so it's not unusual to request that. Well, I mean,
If I might just add, given that the zoning is being proposed to be changed, that does reduce the setback. So I'm just asking for these 4 lots, that those setbacks be maintained at a 60-foot setback that's
On this
undisturbed.
property right now, is it zoned, what is the setback?
30.
That's what it is now?
I'm sorry, what?
As it sits right now, if they built nothing on it, if we
the
didn't
rear
develop.
property would be 50 feet.
50 feet. So if we were to maintain what's existing, which is what you bought.
I would be fine with a 50-foot undisturbed setback.
All right, because my general point of view is, as much as we can.
Yes,
That you
I
get
agree.
this back up to whatever it is you really thought you bought against.
That's what they want.
Okay.
So that'd be something staff and somebody down the line would have to.
Right, we need to give them time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good deal.
That's it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. We're,
My name's Jason Phipps. I oppose this project. I'm a resident of Arcaro subdivision. I do not have one of the adjacent lots to the proposed easement or the easement that's in there, and I think both those homeowners will speak as well. I'm against this for the safety of Milton residents as well as the safety of the folks in Arcaro. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that subdivision or how you enter it off of Arcaro Drive, but there's an S-curve on a 45-mile-an-hour street that's going north. It's a blind left-hand turn. There's no way to get around a car right, and a lot of cars come halting to a quick stop there to make that left-hand turn because they cannot see cars coming southbound. There is no left-hand turn lane. As a result, there's been 3 accidents already at that intersection. There's 21 homes in the neighborhood today. 17 proposed would effectively double it. The street entering is very narrow. You've got tons of kids on that narrow street entering. Buses that pick up our kids cannot enter the neighborhood. It's too narrow. So they have to pick up kids on Birmingham Highway. So now you've got 45-mile-an-hour speed limit coming north, a blind turn coming left, kids sitting out there waiting for the bus and being dropped off by the bus, which I think poses a huge risk for the entire community without a left-hand turn lane and some major reconstruction of that entrance. I actually looked between Broadwell and Birmingham Road, which are the north and south side of that Birmingham Highway section. Any neighborhood on the west-hand side has adequate left-hand turn lane or a right shoulder to get around to make a left-hand turn into the neighborhood. If you look at, I think it's 6 Oaks or whatever is down by the high school, if you look at Enniskerry, if you look at the neighborhood north of us, they've all got adequate right and left-hand turn lanes and plenty of room to make a turn. Plus, all the entrances are very wide, so you can get in and out of those. But the buses cannot come into our neighborhood because the street's too narrow to navigate. So the last point I would make is in their application, I believe they've got 2,500 square feet of heated space. All the homes in that neighborhood, I believe, are minimum 3,500 square foot of heated space. If they're going to be part of that subdivision, they need to come in line with the rest of the homes in that neighborhood. So I'd be against this project. They need to find another entrance that's safer to come into this community. That's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you. Next.
My name is David Stolenwork, and I'm also a resident in Arcaro subdivision. And I'm not one of the residents that lives on either side of the right-of-way or the proposed right-of-way through the neighborhood, but one of my biggest concerns is the fact that we moved into this neighborhood originally due to the fact that it's a nice, small 21-home neighborhood. So that was the nice feel that we wanted, where we didn't have more homes, more traffic, more issues to deal with, because just between my house, Mr. Phipps' house, Mr. Griffin's house, just 3 homes, we got 10 kids under the age, or I should say from middle school and below, just at the entrance. So that's a huge factor, because one of the comments last night by the developer was, well, if Triple Crown can deal with 150 homes in it, why can't y'all? Well, the problem is we moved into that neighborhood with the expectation of it staying small. So the broker that originally sold us the house never said, oh, there's going to be many more homes in this subdivision. So we're a little bit blindsided by this, but that's a huge factor for us of why we moved into that neighborhood that's now being affected. And also, so I'm opposed to it, obviously. And I wanted to comment about the setbacks and buffers. When you were talking earlier about Birmingham Highway, with a 30-foot setback, if my understanding is correct, a setback means that the building or the house can be all the way up 30 feet to Birmingham Highway. So the setback should not only be increased, but there should be an undisturbed buffer that's even greater than that limits the amount of actual clearing that can take place. So that's just something I'm throwing out there to consider if this ends up going through. Also, I want to just second what Jason was saying about the turn lane. The fact that if this were to go through, it's going to increase the risk of that left-hand turn into our subdivision, because there already was just a bad accident. It's a very blind turn going in left-hand into our neighborhood, so that has to be considered as well. So that's pretty much it for right now.
When was this property developed? Was it
2006?
Was this approved by Fulton County prior? It was?
It was Fulton County, yes.
Just one last comment, too. When we were talking last night, I did ask the developer if he had considered at all putting a curb cut off of Birmingham Highway, and he said no. So I would ask that you guys take that into consideration, that if this were a landlocked piece of land, I could more understand why he was trying to ramrod it down our throats of going through our neighborhood. But the fact is, he can have access off of Birmingham Highway and not go through our neighborhood.
But does this piece of property own the piece of property that the road would go on currently?
No.
Is this just an easement, or is it?
City.
City of Milton owns it. But it was designated a road from the beginning.
So we have about 4 minutes left for the.
My name is Malcolm
closing
Harris.
time.
I live 465 Acaro, and my house will be right next to that road. The house will be so close to the easement, I'm not so sure it's even legal. It's about 20 feet from it. When we purchased that property, we did see the abatement going through, the road abatement there for it. When we spoke to the developer, they said that there would never be another development back there. We asked when we bought it, and we bought the property based on the fact that that abatement would be disappeared and be divided between myself and my neighbour, Jeff Dunn. So there was never anything at all back then that there would be. I can produce paperwork that shows that, basically shows that as soon as the City of Milton was to be formed, that abatement would disappear, and that land would come to us.
All right. Any other comment?
Hello, I'm John Galbraith. I'm a resident of Arcaro. Obviously, I'm not one of the ones that's impacted. I'm not next to the road, but I do have some very strict concerns with this development, not only with this development, but with the tone of the other developments that are going on through discussion tonight. Far be it from me to say that I have supreme power to take away the right of any builder, landowner, land developer, or homeowner to build, but my goodness, if you think about our community that we moved into in Milton, many of us have talked earlier about the rural nature of it. If you're just tonight, if you add up the homes that are proposed to be added onto Birmingham Highway, we're looking at over 100 homes. I don't know how many of you all travel on Birmingham Highway.
About 1 minute.
Thank you. I don't know how many of you all travel on Birmingham Highway during the day, especially during rush hours, but with the schools, the narrowness of the road, it is very difficult. The last consideration that I would want to leave you with is sometime someone is going to have to address what happens to Birmingham Highway next. Is that highway going to be widened? I would think it probably will have to be. If we continue to grow this area, grow the people from Cherokee County that come through Birmingham Highway is going to have to be either double-decked or widened. I don't think it'll be double-decked, so I think it will be widened, and I think we just need to plan for that in these setbacks and boundaries that we're talking about. And I don't feel comfortable that we're looking at the plan for the infrastructure and the highways. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Next.
Good evening, Bill O'Connor, 450 Arcaro Drive.
I'm sorry, sir, before he starts, would the board like to extend the time?
How many more people do we have that want to speak? One more?
Yeah, go ahead and
Let's go ahead and do it.
Thank you very much. My home is on the location map at the very end of the cul-de-sac of Arcaro Drive. So my concern is, as others have said, the traffic. It is doubling traffic. The road, Arcaro Drive itself, is narrow. We have a landscaper, a cleaning person, a home guest, and somebody comes home, we have a traffic jam. The developers comment that there would be minimal impact to the surrounding community is simply laughable. This would be maximum impact to the surrounding community. My impression is that the load onto Birmingham Highway is moot, whether they go directly to Birmingham Highway or through Arcaro. It is moot. The same number of cars, but it is a huge impact on our community. And I would just simply ask that this be replanned to go directly onto Birmingham. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next.
Yeah, hi, I'm Jeff Dunn. I'm the other
other side of the easement that's going to be affected. And, when we purchased our house back in 2007, I mean, this community was sold as a 22-home community. There was no pictures of any easement on any of the marketing information. And, quite honestly, we chose our Caro over the Triple Crown if we wanted a larger community. So when we purchased our house, the builder and the developer was, basically misled us and told us the easement was going away since the landowner wouldn't sell that property behind them originally, so that they disregarded that. So he wrote a letter that it was never abandoned. And the other big concern for me is not only we're getting a road going right through our house, the retention pond is on the other side, and there's really no setbacks there. I mean, I would, if the easement is approved, I mean, I'd like to see a minimum of 30, 40 foot setback of woods before that retention pond is put there. And our street is very there's a little circle that you have to maneuver to get to the back of the neighborhood, and I would say every single day somebody hits the curb. I mean, it's very hard to maneuver the circle into the, it's just not designed for another 60 cars. So, thank you.
Well, we certainly understand everybody's concerns, and quite frankly, I have sympathy for everybody involved, developer, the builder, all of you guys, because I'm faced with the same set of problems you have. I live on Freemanville. My neighbor's got land, and he's going to sell his land. They're going to put houses right behind my house, and I'm not real interested in that. However, short of me buying his house myself and leaving it as it is, I will be limited to whatever the rules that apply to the city are. And as much as we would like to change what the builder/developer did to you in terms of this easement, I don't know that that's within our purview, nor is something we can really do or say anything about. As far as the traffic is concerned, give me 1 minute, just as far as the traffic is concerned, I understand that, and as a board member, I'm not saying I promote this, but what's recorded is what's recorded. And so whatever the higher-ups above our board decide to do will be a lot based on what everybody has to bring to the table to say. As far as the Birmingham Highway is concerned, the traffic on it, it's a state highway, and how it's developed out is not for us to decide. As far as the turn lanes to go in, quite frankly, they should have had them to begin with. They should have made it wide enough for a bus to go in there from the very beginning. However, that wasn't something we got to choose. It's not something we got to do. We're left with it as a problem because our homeowners and our community is not happy with it. Having said all those things, a meeting of the minds for everybody, developer side and homeowner side, everybody working together, is probably the best thing that will get everybody the best end result. And so I would just ask all of you to work together and try to find out, because he may, in fact, come decide that he wants to build from Birmingham. Yes, sir.
Could the speaker come up to the mic, please? And state your name and address, please.
Malcolm Harris, 465 Acaro Drive. We have applied and submitted to the City of Milton to have that road to be abated, to be gone away. Abandoned, yeah. And that was put in last week. We were required to get 80% signatures. We had 100% signatures on that. No one in Acaro wants that at all, period. We're waiting. Sorry.
I have a quick question. Do you have a homeowners association?
Yes.
You do. HOA, pay dues, all that. I would suggest, as I think I have on other, like the Manor, that they need to work with the homeowners association regardless of what happens, so that the whole design, everything is consistent with what the neighborhood already has going. That has to be a requirement.
See, it's really above what we get to judge or we get to make comment about the easement itself. It's not something we can pass a comment about because it's more of a legal issue than it is. It's for staff and our elected officials to come up with a resolution for this. We can only comment as to what the design of the lots are and the setbacks. We can't really comment about the easement itself. And though I share your concern, and I share because I'm in the same boat, and I don't like it any more than you do. But
Does the board want to offer any comments on the setbacks that it's proposing?
My only comment would be is the setbacks the people that are directly impacted, the setbacks, if we were to put a requirement, what about the requirement the setbacks are what they are for the existing property? For example, if it's 50 feet currently on the property, leave it at 50 feet, and that way these homeowners, what they bought was a 50-foot buffer. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so if you're getting exactly what you bought to begin with, that's my goal. My goal is that you get exactly what it is you thought you got from the beginning, what is legally recorded.
Could I just add one thing, please? Just the property is currently zoned AG1, and we discussed the possibility of just going and getting a land disturbance permit, which I believe we could have, but opted to try to work through this methodology to have a neighborhood which would be compatible completely with the one that we'll be accessing it through. I also want to add that we've extensively reviewed this situation, including reviewing the homeowners association for Arcaro. And it explicitly says in their own homeowner association documents that there could be additional properties added to the homeowners association. As a matter of fact, the original declarant still has the power to access additional properties, not only this property, but other properties around it into Arcaro subdivision. So I think it was pretty clear that there could be additional phases down the road.
Well, that would be
and the final plat also addresses the easement.
Okay. Well, so wait a minute. Let me make sure I clarify with the homeowners association. You do not have control. The declarant is still involved. Is that true?
That's correct. 10 years.
Well, 10 years doesn't mean anything. If the homeowners association if they have control, they can write out the
You have to
declarant.
read the documents. Some of them are written where once the developer sells 100% of the lots. they're
Right.
automatically
I'm very
exit.
familiar
Not usual.
with
Let me
how
just-
those are written.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how
I used to be the
that goes.
president on one.
Here in the conversation, so I'm the president of the HOA.
Okay, so the declarant is still active, is that correct? Okay.
The declarant actually went bankrupt.
I'm sorry, could we, if you're going to speak from the audience, could you come
We
to
need
the
to have
mic,
one at a
please?
time.
The declarant. My name is John Galbraith. I live at 445 Arcaro Drive. The declarant that developed our original development went bankrupt. Mr. Warnick, he was here earlier this evening. Whether he has ownership I have no idea what power he has over our homeowners association. I know that he turned our homeowners association over to us. I guess the preference would be, does it matter what he wants more than what the homeowners within Arcaro want? And that seems to be, to me, a moot point.
Well, I agree with you that it's about what the homeowners want. However, if he legally has not turned over the association, he can legally do what he wants, I suspect, unless you sue him. And it depends on who's got control of who the declarant is now. Am I right? Well, it depends on what the trustee did. I mean, it's a legal issue. It's not for us.
Yeah, it is, it's a legal issue.
It's a
I would
y'all
get an
got-
attorney.
Y'all have got a legal issue as it relates
Yeah.
to your homeowners association and has the right to the easement and who gets the right to say it. That is a legal issue. It's not a board level issue on our part. And I'm not so sure that's even a city issue until the determination's made who has the right to making that easement. And so if he did not I mean, I developed subdivisions, and I legally had to turn my subdivisions over to a city or to a homeowners. I mean, I owned all the roads until I turned them over to the municipality.
And that was done.
And so when the roads are turned over to the municipality, that does not mean that the association has been. And so there is a legal form that you follow to turn it over to the homeowners association. Now, it could be that he was remissive in his duties and he didn't live to the agreement, and then it could be that he did. That's not for us. We don't know that, and we can't comment on that one way or the other. But your avenue is to find out who has the legal control of your homeowners association.
Although my comment would be, though, I would clarify that because I also think that can be an issue with this whole project in general. There are underlying legal issues with what they're going to do. So, and if they file to privatize the road, that's another issue on top of this. So that would be my comment.
But then that would still go above us, and that would be
Right.
at staff council level.
It's right, it goes above us.
So-
But I just want it noted so that
Well, let me just say this. I can already tell everybody, this is above our pay grade, no matter what.
Let's give them one more from each side.
I'm going to get one more per side, and then.
And again,
That's it.
as John Scalise, 100 Arcaro Trace, I'm not affected by the easement, but I'm the president of the homeowners association. So we do have the legal rights to the association that was turned over to the homeownership. What I cannot answer is if the municipality has the rights to the road. We do need to check on that. But from what I'm hearing you guys say, which I believe is correct, that the roads were turned over to the city of Milton. Is that what I heard?
I don't know that to be an absolute fact. That's what I believe.
Okay, but the only thing I would say in closing is we are a small neighborhood. We have 21 homes. 11 of the homeowners are here. So there's a lot of strong feelings about this, and I guess I'm struck overall by some of the comments that we're hearing about the CUP, and it's already zoned AG1. I think development can happen with an AG1. And you think about Milton as a whole, not only just our neighborhood, but in general. And I'm looking at the letterhead that says home of the best quality of life in Georgia. And I think what you heard from the 11 people that spoke today, or the group of people, phone owners, is that the quality of life, at least for us in Arcaro, for all the reasons that people moved in there, the issues with safety, the quality of our life is going to be greatly affected by this. Right, wrong, or indifferent, and I would just ask the board to think about that as you're making your recommendation on zoning rights. And it's not just for our neighborhood, but in just Milton in general. It's really losing its feel with all this development. And I applaud your guys' efforts to maintain that. And everything I've heard about the easements, that's fantastic. And the lines of sight, that's awesome. But the development is just exponential, and we don't have the infrastructure. And I mean, our neighborhood is a small microcosm of that. But I mean, try to Cambridge during rush hour from our neighborhood. It takes 45 minutes.
I drive past there every morning.
I know, so you guys know, and I appreciate that. But I mean, that is just something we need to think about with 155 homes going into a 2-lane rural road that we can't even get a stoplight on, and they had to tear out the entire trees line to put in a roundabout that's going to work for 5 years. I mean, that is the kind of stuff that as a town we need to be addressing. And this is, again, just one small thing. But it's just, development's not a bad thing, but it's got to be developed in a strategic, well-thought-out manner that maintains the infrastructure and leverages the infrastructure that we have and grows from there. And I think that's all everybody's saying. So
I don't think anybody on this board really disagrees with trying to maintain the quality of life we got. For us as a board in a city, there are just rules you got to follow and a process that you've got to go. And the problems that everybody has with the development itself, as it exists right now, they're just not in our scope of what we can do. It just isn't. As much as we can feel for everybody, there's just not much we can say comment because we don't know. And we don't know the right answer. We can just comment. The things that we can talk about is the line of sight, the rural view shed, the way it's going to be laid out, we can't make comment about 372 because we're not, it's a state road. We don't know. I agree with you. It's going to be widened, but I think Freemanville Road's going to be widened.
It has to be.
You know? And so, but the fact is, I don't know when it will be. I don't know when the money's going to be available to do it. And I don't know who would do it anyway. But the point I'm trying to make is, it's hard for us to stop an AG1 designation from being developed into something. And so, in the absence of us just being able to stop it, then that means that we have to mitigate it as much as we can to be able to get the high quality life that you really want and you deserve. And so that is the effort this board tries to make. And it's not that we're trying to take anybody's side.
And I appreciate your efforts. It's important, I think, for the group to be heard.
Frustrating.
And just the amount of people that spoke here, I mean, it's a majority of our neighborhood, so.
I was steaming earlier today about the lot behind my house.
Thank you.
I just want to just add one thing in closing. I also want to invite someone from our team up to speak on some other issues, but I know the folks in Arcaro don't believe it now, but we will and intend to be a good neighbor and to build a quality product that will be consistent with their neighborhood and only enhance the value of their homes.
Thank you. Walt, did you fill out a yellow card?
I did.
Okay, good.
My name's Walt Recook. I also live in the city of Milton. I developed both White Columns gated section as well as Triple Crown, and I'm going to be the development manager on this project. I'm also past president of the Institute of Transportation Engineers and past city engineer, director of public works for Roswell. So I want to say I come in with some qualifications. I think what I want you to look about and think about in general for our city is when this project was initially developed, phase one, they made a street get tied into an adjoining property. And the reason they did that is because they want to have interconnecting streets. I think we get into a situation where if we have one little cul-de-sac after another, we do not wind up developing a very good community. And that's where, when this road does get widened someday, you're going to have a median cut at some point. And I think everybody's going to want to have a left turn lane into their subdivision. Well, I was involved with 3 different projects in which we had medians put in. One on Holcomb Bridge Road, one on Crossville Woodstock Road, another one on Marietta Highway. By you having 3,000 feet difference between each intersection, you've got to have streets that have tie-ins so that they can go into one location. So again, the critical issue is we need to be looking at how to tie streets together, not keep them separate. And I think this is why the staff of Fulton County initially asked for this stub street to go in and why it wasn't eventually abandoned. But again, I think what we're trying to do on this project, we are going to have a construction entrance. It's worked very well on Triple Crown. I did that Triple Crown, the back section. You can talk to the residents there and find out how well that worked. Well, we had very little construction traffic because we gated it. We made sure people didn't go in and out. And that's the same type of thing we're trying to work with these homeowners. And I've talked with a number of these homeowners and try to talk with some that they don't want to talk to us. So all I can say is I think there needs to be an effort on both sides to work with you, and we're going to try to do that. And again, this is an AG1 property that we're trying to just get nothing done but reducing building setbacks, not buffers. These are not, when you're hearing buffers, this is not buffer issue. This is a building setback, front yard, side yard, rear yard. Those are the type of buffers as well as the frontage on the front of the street. So those are the kind of issues. So it's not a big difference. In fact, we're doing the same thing that they have now in Arcaro Phase 1. And that's why we're doing it, is to be conforming exactly like they have it in their own community. Thank you.
Thank you. That will close public comment on this. And any comment from the board?
Just a question on the front setbacks that they've got listed here. Is that in line with code 20?
Well, that's what they're asking to reduce it to. The front setbacks would normally be 60, and so I think he's saying the existing setbacks in the existing Arcaro. The setbacks he's asking for match the setbacks in the existing.
That was okay.
Okay, next is Highway 9 North, 13943. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming and participating. no, I didn't say what they wanted.
It was well balanced.
Good evening. Joe Ingram, Ashton Woods Homes, 3820 Mansell Road. We have the 5.3 acres just north of the CVS property off Highway 9 under contract, right north of Bethany Bend. We seek to rezone it from an OI classification to a TR classification, looking to put 24 single-family detached residences on it. The handout you have in your hands, there's some samples of some of the product that we would be looking at building in this neighborhood. We're not seeking any variances to the performance standards of the zoning classification. Just simply seeking to rezone it from OI to TR.
The question would be to Kathy, since you're here. Going from O and I to residential, obviously that's down zoning, right?
Well, it's a different type of land use. In this area, as you know, we are in the midst of developing a master plan for it. And the idea is to convert it to a form-based code, which deals more with density levels than it does with usage.
Okay.
And the type of use that we're envisioning along this corridor includes residential as well as mixed use, including office, commercial. It doesn't really include industrial, with the office part. So it's a matter of the density form on the site. Clearly, residential would be an allowed use as we envision it. This is a little ahead of the plan, but with the plan in place, this will probably
Conform.
I actually have been involved with the planning on the Highway 9 area, because that's my area. And I agree with all of Kathy's comments. I would just add, I think where that property is located, the intent was more for office retail. That was the visioning session that was had, was they came up with office retail on that particular piece of property. So, and I would say there were very strong views in line with that, very strong. That's my comment.
There was a comment made to me about the entrance being, not having the common area in it, but being a single entrance.
And that's, when I first went to Robin with our plan, with our zoning plan for the community, that was what we originally contemplated. And our engineer, we don't pick up lots or anything like that by having that split entrance that we're showing on here. We just felt that it gave the proposed development a better feel, having the one entrance and one exit versus the combined. We're more, I mean, we'd be more than open to going back to that original design.
I personally like the common area, but it doesn't affect any line.
I'm not sure which plan you guys actually have. I put that rendered plan. You should have a new full-size zoning plan that was given to you today.
Yeah, we got it. We do.
That entrance has shifted south because we did, once we went out, surveyed Highway 9 right there, picked up the topography, we realized we were going to run into a line of sight issue, so we shifted that whole entrance south on Highway 9 to avoid that line of sight issue.
North of that.
Got it.
Hard to do this thing.
Yes, my other question, comment would be Highway 9 will be widening, so where is that in the plan?
Straight up, they made it narrow. They moved down and made the common area narrow. This is the updated plan. moved it down here and increased that up there.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
For the line of sight was my only questions that I had was the line of sight and whether or not it conformed to what the city was looking for that area. And obviously, Ms. Weissong down there knew, she works that area a lot, so she knows more about it than I would.
Yeah, it's really, from a traffic perspective, a very challenging area, because it's right before you hit Lake Laurel. Superior Plumbing and Heating's right on the right after that. So yeah, it's just a very bad, from a traffic perspective, a very bad area. And will probably get worse until it's widened. And the question is, I think, that discussions with Carter about, what's Georgia DOT coming up with to handle site traffic turning issues. There are many of them. That would be a comment I would have regarding that. It's just to add more additional traffic of X number of lots versus, I'll go back to, the decision on Deerfield. I think we need to keep it in mind that what was made on the apartments on Deerfield is very similar to this area. We have to look at, this is a potentially revenue-producing property. We don't have that many revenue-producing properties in the city, and we have to keep looking to have revenue-producing property. And that's been a discussion that's been had several times. And I would continue to focus on the revenue-producing opportunity and to create more of a walking scape for that area, where there is some retail for the homeowners in 5 acres in Lake Laurel, that give it more of a, similar to a crabapple feel. That's what they want. That's what the visioning sessions have been about. So I would just, add that. Those are the discussions I heard while I was in those sessions.
Also, I'd just like to bring to the board's attention, in the new overlay that's being proposed, single-family dwellings would be subject to review by the city staff. So if the board would like to add that as a comment, so that in the event that this does get approved as is, at least the single-family homes would all be subject to some sort of architectural review.
Can we pass forward the comment that since form-based code is what we're working on for that area, that we do all that we can do to comply with the form-based code that's going to be for that applicable area?
I know what you're saying, Laura, and however, as I drive up Highway 9 all the way to Forsyth County, the retail, existing retail facilities up there just seem to be struggling. There's some that are full, and then there's many that are lacking occupants.
Some that are empty.
And so is it in the best interest to add another one when the market just doesn't seem to be absorbing that quickly?
Well, between Bethany and the County Line Road, it's full. We don't have that much, and it's full.
Full of retail?
Yeah. I mean, right across the street, that's a very frequent Outrageous Interiors, the dance studio. I mean, that's used by.
Yeah.
I mean, that's done well. The corner lot. I mean, if you build the right things, you can sell it, and I think that's the problem. I mean, those were all Fulton County builds,
Yeah.
which would not have been recommended by anyone in any of those neighborhoods who was part of Bethany Area Residents Association, of which I was, as well as one of our city council members. So I'm just stating the fact of what's happened up there. So, like Julie discusses Birmingham area, I'm, pretty familiar in what's gone on for years and years in our area. And let me just put it lightly. I mean, I'm not, and it's not my job as being on the design review board to comment about anything other than the design and what the variance is. So my only comment is there's a lot of townhomes, and you're going to hear that from people. So, and the question would be, do we need more? Or what else do we need?
They're not proposing townhomes.
Right.
Yeah, they are.
No.
Well, it says
Single-family detached homes.
it says townhouse.
Can I ask a question just about the form-based code that we're talking about? So I guess my question is, how could we be subject to a form-based code that's not actually in place yet? If we were to get this zoned and we're talking about a potential form-based code, it's, we're going through that right now in another community that we have in Milton, and we were well aware of that coming into the community. So we were able to underwrite the deal, taking all that into account.
You already own this property?
This particular piece, no. No, but
But
we
if
will be
our
closing
goal is
on
that
it.
we want form,
I would answer that. I mean, that's kind of maybe a staff question, as far as, complying with something that's coming, down the corner. But I'm just making a point here that I know your community up the
Right.
road. I thought it was done very well. The homes, and Milton, we just lack homes from the 350s to 4s, and I'm just guessing at your price point, that are somewhat, I mean, if you call 350 or 400 affordable, in Milton it is. And we're lacking that ability for someone who wants to live in Milton in a smaller home, in a smaller lot, to be, to have that opportunity. And I think we're running out of land to provide that. I mean, I don't know of too many others out there that are just ready for, moderate density homes. But I know what you did up the road, and I liked it, and I think this is, consistent with what you did. And
This is a single-family home, right?
Single-family detached, yes.
Mr. Chair, to answer yours and the applicant's question, if I'm correct, we are working on extending the Highway 9 overlay, and so we wanted to go ahead and incorporate the Highway 9 form-based code, requirements to this development for consistency's sake.
I would agree.
How far out are we from having those in place?
We are about to bring the actual plan through for review to the Planning Commission and City Council, and that should happen early spring. And then after the plan is approved, we would then put a form-based code type of zoning in place. So we're probably talking about until next summer. Although I think that should this project be approved, that if we could have design review control over it, that we could certainly take the intent of the design review code that's in place that we anticipate moving up to this corridor, and we could reflect that within design review. So we would be just working with you on the type of housing in terms of its look for each of the elevations, which is what we've already done in Crabapple, as well as in the existing Deerfield area that is already has an overlay on it. So it's not inconsistent with that. So I don't think that would be something that you would find too onerous.
Okay.
Did I say that, Bob? You want to add
Is that would be my only question, and it may be a question for a later date, as to whether we could include our specific elevations as part of a zoning submittal, or whether it would have to be a case-by-case scenario as we went to pull building permits down the road.
We would just ask for the ability to review administrator. I'm myself the city architect.
Okay.
And you're already doing that.
Right. Yeah.
Using the existing form-based code, which will be carried up to the corridor. Using those standards as the basis.
It does. I'm just struggling with the financial side of this deal, being that wasn't looked at, and it's for us to look at.
I think we can have a further conversation
Okay.
on that to explain.
Okay.
We're not trying to make this tougher
No,
for you.
I
We're just
know.
trying
I think we got some.
to make sure that we're trying to get everybody heading in the right direction that we're, as a staff, are trying to, or
Right.
city's trying to go. So,
Okay.
not trying to hammer your deal. Just
Marty, just so that the board knows that, and it's a little confusing, but a TR zoning classification does allow single-family detached homes.
Okay.
In that, so when you see
Hence
that
the
in
reason why it
future,
says townhouse residential.
The TR in itself doesn't mean that it will be a townhome. It's just the way it's written and what's printed.
Okay.
Okay.
So is there any other designation? No. Is that it? Is
No.
it just not residential, or
NUP.
what's? No, I'm just I'm asking from a point of.
Well, and for the Bethany Bend, for the current rezoning that's going through the process right now, the one in Bethany Bend, where they zone from AG1 to an NUP, a neighborhood unit plan. They could have used the TR, but the neighbors asked us not to use that TR, so we converted it into the NUP. So there is a way of doing it, but both of them work, in essence, in terms of responding to his request for that type of density.
So we're not, he can't come back at a later point and just put townhouses up.
No.
No.
It'd be based on the single-family plan
It
that
will
he submitted.
specifically be approved in single family.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what we want.
That's what we want.
Well, how is that different
There's
from
a
cup?
there's a comment from the public.
NUP versus cup, are they the same?
The CUP just allows a reduction in the setbacks. You're still looking at 1 acre lots, and I think the NUP allows smaller lots.
Okay.
It's a technicality.
Okay, I'm going to open the floor up for comments.
Now, this is number 19, right?
Number 19.
Yes, ma'am.
All kind of questions. I'm from Bellamie Farms, and it's, this project will back up my property. And there's, my name is Dorothy Latham, and there's not that many houses in this subdivision. It's an old subdivision. I've been there about 20 years, and I'm the youngster of the crew. And so anybody that comes to live in Bellamie Farms usually stays till the grave. We love each other in there. And that's a great community, and we don't have swimming pools, tennis courts. We have our own large lots, and we like it that way because it's so private. But let me ask you this, and you'll be able to answer these more probably than them. And now I know a sewer system's coming in. I've seen where it's been surveyed, and when it comes in, are they going to be those high sewers like 3 foot tall? Are they going to be 1 foot tall?
And I don't know if all this needs to be read into the record or not, but the sewer system hasn't actually been designed yet. You're referring to the sewer easements that are in place to get from basically the portion of property that we have under contract to an existing manhole that is within Belmead. Most municipalities do not like anything above ground when it comes to a sewer system. Our outfall will more than likely be in the ground, gravity fed, so it won't be the aerial type sewer outfalls that you see, which I think it's the. Well, you'll have manholes, but the manholes will be in the ground. We have at least confirmed that to get sewer from our site to that existing manhole, we can gravity flow it in the ground. So I could pretty much say 98% the entire sewer system will be in the ground.
Okay, when you go across, there's gonna be like 5 houses that, when you tear up the road, that, Cedar Farm Court, when you tear it up, there's gonna be 5 houses that will not have access to get out.
I don't know that we'll actually tear the road up. We may be able to bore the road. Yeah, and from time to time, you're able to offset a manhole in that road to where you can close down one lane at the time to install that sewer outfall. So you would still have access. We would not completely limit anyone's access to the backside of the neighborhood.
I didn't know the way it cut through there, and Mr. Vasali, his property, we know, I don't even know Mr. Vasali's last name. Everybody knows each other by the first name. So, Mr. Vasali, he has, he's from the Ukraine, and he has 2 apartments like underneath his house, and he has family that comes over and stays in those apartments. And I do not know why in the world he set it down in a hole like. And that's the property right there. I know you can get off the driveway and it's gravel, but that's the property that's gonna, where you put the sewer line through. Don't you think that's gonna, if y'all flood him out, is there any way y'all can stop the flooding of his basement and destroy his house?
The sewer outfall we'll be putting in as a sanitary sewer outfall. It's not a storm sewer outfall, so we won't be putting storm water on anybody.
Yeah, because his the way it slopes is as tall as his ceiling down to the basement. And I just wonder how in the Sam Hill is he gonna stop all that mud and water and stuff from going seeping right into his house?
You're talking about from the new development?
We're not allowed to discharge water at any faster of a rate than it's leaving the site now.
Right, the new state law, the new law is whatever lands on that property stays on that property. And so this will not be runoff created from this property going over to your property.
Okay, so Mr. Gonzalez, it won't destroy the basement?
He will have what he has now. It will not change, good or bad, either way. They cannot, when they develop their site, they cannot change his site. So it just can't be done. What they have to do when they do their site plan and they come back to the city, the stormwater portion of what we go through, do we do that or does this county do it? We do. We have someone here that is an engineer that will look at what they propose, and he will assure through his LDP and the stormwater plan that he comes up with that the water goes and stays where it's supposed to. So your property should not be affected one way or the other, good or bad. It will be what you have is what you have.
Our property is right next door to Mr. Gonzalez, and he happens to be the one the sewer line goes to. And
That
they
is-
and they can park vehicles on our property, which we didn't care, and we knew that when we built the house. But we have a driveway there. Now, if they put heavy equipment on that driveway and bust it all to pieces, does that mean they?
They can't go on your property.
Well, it's easement of 20.
Well, they can go on an easement, but they can't.
They got to put the vehicles somewhere. The dump trucks,
Well, they'd be coming in from Highway 9, I would suspect.
well, you know, we know they can put their vehicles 20 foot, and of course I get my driveway. Not all of it, but I don't mind them using it, and I've got enough land, I can go out on the other side. But I just wondered if they busted up the driveway, even though we have an easement, does that mean that that's just the way it is? Or do they have to fix my?
They do not have the right to, it's an easement. The easement, they have the right to use the easement. They do not have the right to tear the easement up. If they tear the easement up, I suspect there would be some conditions for them to put it back the way it was.
Let me just ask one thing real quick. So part of this process, and you should have gotten a notification of a public participation meeting next week. We haven't physically had that meeting yet. that may be a better forum for you and I to address each one of these questions at that meeting. Okay, all right.
Okay, and then I wanted to ask, when you put the sewer in, does everybody in the subdivision got to tie on to it?
We can talk about, you don't have to tie on to it.
Because everybody has septic tank. I mean, yeah, I guess you can if you want to.
You can tie, it depends on the developer, and if the ability is there to tie on the septic tank, everybody would have to, I would assume, agree to it and agree to pay for it. This developer's most likely not going to pay to put sewer on existing properties. So if you wanted to, as a community, wanted to tie on to it, then you could talk to staff here, and that would be the proper place for you to go to see if y'all want to do that as a neighborhood.
Okay, the ditch in between my house and Ralph's, on the other side, is about 4 foot deep. And it's always been there. You can tell this used to be farming. And when it gets to raining, it rains a lot. And if there's a lot of blockage up here, where it makes more, like more concrete now, makes more downspill, I'm afraid it's gonna tear up that eroded over there.
So there's a certain amount of impervious runoff that's allowed. We have to address water quality on site, so any water that hits our site, we have to treat that on site. And with what we will have a pond. We'll have a pond to treat for water quality, maybe 2 ponds, I don't know, because we haven't run the hydrology and actually engineered the site yet. But we will not be discharging water on you guys any faster than it's coming to you right now. We can't by law. So we can't affect that drainage that you're talking about right there.
It's zoning from 01 to 2.
Mm-hmm.
It's like our house, when we built it, we had to get 50 feet from the road, 20 feet, 25 feet from each side. Is that the way the same for TR?
I think TR is a minimum front setback, which is from back of sidewalk of 20 feet. 14 feet between structures and 15-foot side setbacks on interior streets.
That sounds about right, but they are less than HE1.
Yes.
So between my house and the back of my house to the back of your property, how much feet should they be? Yeah. Where's the back property?
Here's Mr. Hodges' property up here. This is the back property. Okay, so this line here is a 35-foot rear dwelling setback. Our house can't be any closer to our rear boundary than 35 feet. I don't know.
The lots are,
It's hard for me to say right now without having an engineer actually looking at it to see if it's shift that. So, you can request, absolutely. You can, I can't promise you.
I know.
Accommodate.
But I mean, we got a lot of wood here. And can now request that.
that part of the code base was going to deal with.
So, this is a public discussion.
So can you guys just speak into the mic? This is a general conversation. I think we'd be better off. I think
So
we should address a lot
I
of these
requested, I think it's 35 feet from the setback from the back of the property. But I requested if he would put it for 50, just ask him. And for him to landscape it, make a barrier, and for him to put a privacy fence. So the people, these are a lot of houses, so they won't be walking right through the yard all the time. And we have to run
We got one.
off. Is that a lot to ask?
Okay. A lot of the detail things that you're looking to get answers to are not what we're here to do tonight. And so the best thing I can tell you is, as soon as they can get to a true site plan, they're going to start presenting stuff to the city. This is not the only place this is going to come up. And when they can have their public meeting, which I think you said is the next.
It's December 12th, I thought.
On December 12th. That is.
Your CZIM tomorrow, right?
Yes.
here. So he'll be back here tomorrow, and you can chat about
Yes, and
That's where you normally would ask a lot of these questions.
Be hard to get upset with her. Be hard to get upset with her.
It just fell through.
Because we wanted the bank. Well, because, you don't have neighbors hardly there that go home at night, and it's just, we thought it was, more profitable for the city too to have a business there. But we never ever dreamed houses or something. We never. So, I wanted to answer all these questions because none of my neighbors are here. And I know they're gonna ask. And so you said the retention pond, where is it gonna be? Is it gonna be on the backside?
We're not really there yet. We haven't engineered the site yet, so.
ma'am, what they're doing right this minute is they have identified a piece of property they're interested in. They have come up with a rendering of what they want to put on it. Now they've got to go back and do all the technical things to support what they've drawn on that piece of paper. And nobody on this, we're just reviewing this right this minute to tell them what we're looking for, which is, the entranceway, line of sight, setbacks, all the things to make sure it conforms. What we just told the staff was that we recommended that area will be part of a form-to-base code area, and we've asked the staff to help us direct and lead this developer towards that path to develop. So the things you're talking about are things that are not part of our purview at this point. So what you need to do is just get with him separately after the meeting, and you can discuss those few things and write up your questions, and when the next meeting comes along that is more about the specifics, then you can get the right answers, because I don't know that he has all the right answers for you yet.
Well, it's supposed to be 2,000 square feet, right?
The homes, that's a minimum square footage, yes.
Good, that sounds good. But is it supposed to be real or
No.
property?
No, it's all.
I hate to do this, but we need to move on to the next agenda item because we've got a long.
I just wanted to make sure I asked some.
Oh, one more comment. Come on up, sir. I'm sorry.
Carlin Hodges, and it's not Superior Plumbing, it's Superior Indoor Comfort.
Sorry.
We get confused a lot.
Apologize.
I'm at 13955 Highway 9, north adjoining this property. I own the acreage, but I also own the company. And we sort of had an agreement with Ashton Woods, and it expired in October. For whatever reason, they dropped our 2 acres to go ahead with just this 5, because it's going to be, for whatever reason, north of us, they couldn't work out a deal, is what I'm told. My concern is next year, 5 years, 10 years from now, and the reason I agreed with their deal was I would move right up the street. I can see what's coming. I'm getting ready to either update or upgrade my entrance, repave the parking lot, those sort of things, or I'm also an ex-county commissioner. I know what you guys are up against, and you got to have income-producing properties. And you've done a great job so far. I think what's coming up there is fine. I don't know what's coming in the future. I'm hearing all kinds of stories. Now I'm hearing more about next summer be the unveiling. So I'm not against any of that. My concern is if you were going to approve an M1 next to a development that was already there, if it were reversed, I think there'd be a lot of folks saying, no way. My concern is you put this in there, and I'm already in M1 next door. I occupy 1 1/3 buildings there, and I have a tenant in 2/3 of the other building. I've been there for 21 years, and my tenant's been there 1 year longer than I have. And my concern is this going to affect me? They have engineered a road that is for the future to go into my place. They're telling me now that, well, we'll pick you up later, maybe. Well, there are a lot of building developers that were here 5, 6 years ago. They're not here, and I hope we've seen the last of that. But I've been in this for 40-plus years, and if they go away in 2 years and that doesn't happen, am I stuck with a road like I heard earlier that leads to nowhere? So I guess I'm just here for a courtesy review too. Is this going to affect me? Can I continue my business for the next 5 to 10 years there if nothing comes through and with no effect? And that's really my biggest concern. 10 years from now, I'm going to be on that sailboat, so it doesn't matter after that. And I would just like, this board's comments on that by putting yourself in my shoes.
I don't think we know. I mean, obviously, they want mixed use going up the Highway 9 corridor retail, and the problem is if you add more retail to it, whether it supports it or doesn't support it, my idea would be, is this harmful to the future development of the stuff around it? I can't tell you that I'm an expert that I know. I really don't. But, I'd rather see townhomes than a jail. And I'd rather see townhomes than, whether I should say it or not, a massage parlor or something along those lines. But, so I don't know that it really harms you. Does it devalue your property, it being residential versus a commercial that you've got? And personally, I think you got a great location for what you've got, and it's pretty amazing that you're there. And you're there because you started out a long time ago there, and how it plays out in your long-term plan, that's pretty high density that's in that area, and I don't know what they're asking for that piece of property or what they offer. But that kind of density level, y'all tell me, is it going to generate more money? Is it really going to impact the difference of value on his piece of property at a later date? You know what I mean?
He's going to have traffic in and out. I mean, he has a business. So, I mean, you've got twice as much traffic with that as you would other. That's been the question that, that's been bounced around between all the homeowners associations that are in that corridor.
Well, I think traffic as it exists right now with the base of what we've got on that Highway 9 corridor is deplorable.
It's awful.
I avoid Bethany and I avoid Highway 9. I'm only on those roads at the non-peak times because just like your guys that go to work, they're sitting in traffic when they pull out of your building to go south. Yep. And in the evenings when they're going home and they're going north, if they go north, they're sitting there at the McFarland. It backs all the way up to the hot tub place.
Can't take a left turn.
And so, our bigger concerns are going to be more of a traffic impact study that's a state road, I suspect. It is, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's a state road. So it's going to become more of a traffic study of how things develop out versus whether it's residential, commercial. Would it have been better for it to be a church or be a bank? Probably, in terms of a traffic standpoint. Would a church or a bank or something along those lines change the value of your property to more?
Well, it's not as much. The value is because, and Ashton, I think, does a great job. They did a great job up the road. I don't have anything against them. On the comment card, I checked both, for and against.
Right.
Okay, so everybody wins. But and that's because, in the traffic situation, you're right. And after the traffic eases up by about 9:30 or 10, you take your life in your hands pulling out of my driveway going south. Because the best thing they did was put the red light in, because at least now when they top the hill, they see the red light and they begin to slow down just before they hit me.
GNS, try pulling out of there.
Oh yes, it's the little hill there, and I suspect a lot of that would be addressed when they come in and widen, which I know they're going to do.
Right.
But if they, for instance, if an entrance is granted to this subdivision, and 5 years from now Ashton's not here, and someone wants to come to me, and maybe the 3 acres is vacant north of me, can you have another entrance that close together, or have you changed the makeup next door? That's my concern. Would it make more sense, like they came to me first, to tie mine and that property together, because that did make more sense to have a larger property, to have that many, whether they be townhomes or detached or whatever.
With the exception they weren't willing to take the risk to buy the two parcels and develop them at the same time.
I think it was that plus north of me. I think whatever that deal fell through, because I had a contract. It was.
But at least they've got the rear road back there that ties on, that they could tie into your property based on that rear road.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I wish I could tell you that I got an answer. I don't have an answer.
Well, would it affect, if I continue doing my business, I mean, we do have some light manufacturing, which is, I'm zoned for, and my tenant,
Can't change you based on you're already
they
there.
can't change me. And, you know, I mean, if I go in there now, am I taking a risk because I need to do my entrance as they go in and widen?
I don't think so, because I don't think, based on what we've even talked about for other projects that are here, if you've noticed that what we do is, one of the things we ask is, what was the setbacks when you bought it? What was there to begin with? And when you bought your piece of property, what did you expect to use it as? We shouldn't really infringe upon your ability to use your property as you bought it. In other words, you know, I've never been believed that government should go back and change their mind, you know, and say, well, we're not going to allow this now. And I don't see how they can do that. So I don't think that it impacts you.
Last thing, Ms. Watson, you obviously very familiar here. What's your comments on what you see in that? Because I'll be honest with you, I'm a realist. Whether it be next year or 5 years from now, I don't see
Well, my hope
us
is,
fitting in.
the hope is that with a plan, we have an idea for what we want to do on those properties and try and get developers that will be willing to work with us to develop things that the community wants, that can be profitable for them and what everybody wants to work with. And that's the whole form-based code objective. And hopefully with that, you know, that allows for people who are currently doing business there to continue doing it and not be affected. The homeowners don't want to be affected, and I don't think the businesses want to be affected. I mean, because everybody's there for a reason, and, you know, people live there for a reason. They like the community. So, I mean, it is a little interesting to understand why, you know, there isn't a bigger deal, but I'm with you, because you're right, that may have made more sense. I don't know.
I'm going to tell you right now, it's all about limiting their exposure. They're going to get started on something. If this sells out real well, they'll be calling you next.
Well, thank you all for staying this late.
Yep. Good night.
Good night. Thank you. Okay, can we move on?
Make sure, like on these type, that we get some sort of aerial photo, particularly this, because there's a lot of stuff already there. Nobody's seen this. You know, I'm trying to explain what's there just because I know the area, but I really think you got to understand what's there.
This is not satisfying.
No, that's like not even, no. I mean, there's like a neighborhood behind, there's a neighborhood up there, there's his business. I mean, that's just not, for this where you've already got a lot already there. I mean, Birmingham's different, it's more open, but there's already stuff here.
Okay, next one is 16340 Birmingham Highway. Mr. Perry.
Yes, my name's Carl Jones. I represent Perry Development Holding Group. It is our intent to develop this 65 acres into 54 single-family homes that be priced somewhere between $750 and $1 million. We are sandwiched between Blue Valley Development and actually a horse stable. 16340 Birmingham Highway. And then the back of our property wraps around to Bullpen Road. So I know the hour's late. You folks, you know, don't hesitate to fire away. It's basically a single-family subdivision. We have approximately 550 feet of frontage on Birmingham Highway. The person selling our property has retained ownership on this 9.5 acres here. So we actually come in here. The two sellers of this property here are retaining ownership on their homes. So virtually nothing will be disturbed on Bullpen Road. Those two houses remain here. Everything remains on this 9.5 acres here. We have one house to veer back here that we're taking out, and basically a chicken coop.
So lot 1 and 51 are the ones that will be side views of Birmingham.
That's correct.
When we look at this, you wonder what the elevation is. Can you see it, or can you read it? What the elevation is down here and how it rises up to this point over here, so you can really tell what the elevation
Yes, sir.
Have you done your soils testing?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We have it all intact.
Yeah, and all of these lots work.
Yes, they do.
Do you know how much above the roadway of Birmingham, lot 1 and 51, the houses, what the difference of elevation would be from the roadbed to where the basic part of the house would leave it?
Be approximately 9 feet above, 9 to 12 feet above the existing roadway.
Okay, and so what you'll have is a basement and 2 stories above that?
Yes, that is correct. But that will be cut into the soil.
Yeah, but it'll
on
be
both
exposed
of
on
those
the
lots.
it'll be exposed on the the Birmingham Highway side. So you'd have full
Not the
view.
basement, not the basement on either 1 or
So
51.
it's going to be cut into the lot.
Yes, sir.
So it'd be sloped down, and so you wouldn't see the side of the house other than the first and second story.
That is correct. Yes, sir.
You know, as we've asked and everybody else that's come before us tonight, the concern that we have is keeping that rural view as you go down the road, and that would be one of the requirements that we would want to stipulate on this property for anything to be seen from Bullpen or from Birmingham.
Sure, I can understand that.
So
Probably even new bullpen.
that's why I just said new Bullpen.
Yeah, new bullpen. Yeah.
So anything that abuts, that you can see from those 2 roads, that back up to these corridor roads, we want to be able to have staff approval on some sort of landscape / buffer / setback / whatever you want to call it. But we're trying to take this, keep the rural feel of the line of sight from these 2 roads, from the roads that impact the subdivision. So we're really talking about lot 17, 18, 19, lots 1 and 51.
And Mr. Chair, that would include architectural review of those dwellings.
It would include staff review to meet the requirement that we would have for the
landscape.
The rural, what'd you call it, the rural?
View shed.
The rural view shed, or what I like to say, the line of sight from the road beds.
And the architectural character of those homes.
Correct.
Yeah. We would be in concurrence with that.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I'd also just like to ask, are they proposing sidewalks on both sides of the street?
One side, sir.
One side of the street?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the mailbox area for something this large with the postal service, I'm not sure if they're allocating some area for centralizing the mail delivery.
Is that now a requirement,
It
sir?
is.
Okay, we would do that.
So, prior to going to the council, you might want to show that.
Yes, uh-huh.
With this number of houses, I mean, I'd like to see that more as a structure than just a bunch of boxes, with a little shed roof on it.
Yeah.
More of a building that somebody would pull up to. I don't see any centralized recreation or,
Is there a reason why you're going to a centralized, is that something we're asking for?
That's the
Post office requirement, they're not going individual house
They're cutting back.
Really?
Right. So since they don't have like a common area
The
for
world
a
is changing.
recreation building or, one of those recreational type of structures or a pod, it might.
You're just gonna have
almost
one
kind of
central
change
area
something
for the mailboxes?
Yep.
Yes.
We would do that, and it would be very much architecturally pleasing.
Amazon will be the drone delivering mail, you know it.
I'm all over that.
That'll be the retired Afghanistan drones. Dropping stuff off.
As I understood, there's just one sidewalk within the community on one side.
That's what he said.
Yeah, I'd propose two. That one sidewalk never works. Trust
Was
me.
the one sidewalk because of impervious surface area, or,
Yes, sir.
so you were exceeding the impervious?
Yes, sir.
So you cut back the sidewalk to save on the impervious?
Yes, sir.
People want sidewalks. If you're doing
You
it,
can make your
can't.
sidewalks out of pervious concrete. Good.
Put a trail. Gravel.
So there aren't any amenities here.
Yeah, I didn't see, do you have any amenities?
No. We are located just diagonally across the road from the proposed new Birmingham Park. So we feel like all of that's going to be a real amenity to the residents here. But right now, we do not propose a tennis court or swimming pool.
Yeah, I would say with that many homes, I would think through that. You know, if it was smaller, not a big issue, but when you're talking this many homes, you're getting into a bigger neighborhood.
Well, it looks like a very hilly, challenging piece of property.
Yes.
It is. Yes, sir.
Yes.
You know, it's always difficult for a developer to come in and develop stuff that's got that many contours to it and to make it look good. You know, and obviously, there's not enough detail on here about culverts and the way you're gonna build your embankments and how you're gonna do your cuts to the road, because obviously you got 9 feet on each side from your entrance way. How's that gonna be? I would assume those are all things that are gonna have to come up later for staff to review and to, Angela, at some point when he would, I guess on family residential, we're not gonna see it anyway, right? In terms of the way the curb cuts cut in and,
Who won't see it?
we won't, for example, once they bring their entrance into the subdivision,
Well, the
which is the only thing we
LDP
can really comment on,
The
right?
LDP will come back to you.
Okay, so when the LDP comes back to us, we'll get to comment on the entrance and
Diesel lanes and.
all that stuff. Okay. Because at this point, all we can really comment on is what we've already said, which is the rural view shed, whatever it is, line of sight. And that's really all we can comment for about at this moment, right?
And I do have a line of sight vision here on the drawings. And it's basically 450 feet each way.
Okay.
From the center line of the street here, 450 feet unobstructed.
Okay. Well, I'm looking for more what the aesthetic view of it is. Transportation people can debate
Right.
the,
And of course, we're going through a full-blown study now on traffic.
okay.
But we do plan an architectural entranceway and, entry monument on each side, this type of thing.
Oh, and, hey, Bob, Angela, is there already a bike lane on there in that area? If not,
think so.
they need it, because Cherokee already has it. So that's a big bike, that's
On
a big
Bullpen?
bike track. I bike up there.
They have it
On
on new
Bullpen?
bullpen? Sure.
No,
Oh,
on Birmingham.
Birmingham.
Once you get to Cherokee,
Really?
they have bike lane. Yep, they've got a lot of room. I would
We-
suggest anyone developing, make them put it in.
Would you repeat that, ma'am? Just
Yeah,
so I-
bike lanes on Birmingham, that's a very big cycling area, and Cherokee already has bike access, and I would suggest that you add it in front for bike access, because eventually, I don't think that's on the plan, I thought, but.
Yeah, I mean, Birmingham Highway is State Highway 372.
Right,
so-
well, Cherokee's already got it,
Okay.
so
I mean, we
my
can try
point
and
is,
work
they've
with
already
DOT
got it
and
up
see what
there,
we
they
can do,
have.
but there's no guarantees that
Well, we'll make it a suggestion, but it's up to the state.
it's up to the state.
Understood, but why does Cherokee have it?
Right. I mean, I'm sure that there'll be discussion about it, but it's not something that's sold into the city, so.
Yeah, and New Bullpen Road also is a big cycling. I don't know if that's on the hiking and biking trail plan, but it's a big heavy use cycling, yeah.
I put it in.
Okay, I'm going to open up the floor for public comment.
Do we have anybody else that will be speaking?
I think there may be.
Okay, so I'll start the timer, the 10-minute. I'll start the timer.
The timer?
10 minutes for each side.
I don't know how to ration my time. I don't know how many people are going to speak. I'll try to keep it short. My name is Curtis Mills. I live at 16355 Birmingham Highway, which is almost overlapping directly across the street from this development. I'm on the east side of Birmingham, directly across the street from Blue Valley, if you all know where that is situated. And I'll say that I would like to see my neighbor, the seller, win big time somehow, and I'd like to see Mr. Jones, I think it's Mr. Jones, win big, et cetera, et cetera. This is not about economics, it's about the area, and I'll try to keep this brief in my mind, and I was on the committee that developed the comprehensive land use plan some years ago, and coincidentally I was on the planning commission for 5 years. I got some that qualifies me for nothing except knowing a little bit about this stuff. And the Birmingham character area was one of the more rural and intended to be such. The notion of CUP applications, and in my 5 years on the planning commission, there were the first 5 in Milton, and granted that was when the economy tanked, et cetera, but we heard exactly 0 CUP requests. I'm here tonight, there are 4 on the table. I mean, that's just staggering to me, and 3 of them are on our road. To me, and a point I would like to make, because I know this is just a courtesy review, is that we ought to be looking at a really high standard for CUP approval as opposed to the AG1 that we're supposed to have. It's a natural limitation. We have terrain issues, we have geological issues, and perk, and then setbacks and buffers. I don't understand, after hearing some of the presentation, why they're even applying for a CUP. If it perks, and I ain't a betting man, but I don't know about how they're getting almost a house per acre on land that is known to be challenging in the perk category. And there's no common land. I saw a picture of it, and I thought the 9 acres fronting Birmingham was the park that's usually associated with the CUP, but that's being retained by the seller. So I don't understand. If it does perk, they don't need these kinds of variations. If it's a CUP, where's the park that supposedly justifies the density? And then lastly, traffic. I don't know what the latest count is on Blue Valley now that Mr. Sharp's bought it. There's going to be hundreds of houses feeding into Birmingham Highway. My driveway is 1 mile from the crossroad. On a really bad morning, I can see the end of the traffic line from my driveway to Birmingham, and if y'all know where New Bullpen cuts in, closer to the intersection, that's a whole big line, and then there's a whole big I mean, it's crazy. So the notion that we'd have extra density feeding in to Birmingham, right where Blue Valley is going to be dropping 200 new cars per morning. It seems like the standard for CUP ought to be pretty high, and I hope I haven't used too much time. Thank you all very much.
Got about 6 minutes.
Yeah, I'll be brief.
6.5 minutes left.
Again, John Scalise Caro, and again, I'm not to reiterate what I said before, but I just think it's very important. You know, we all agreed in that discussion that we appreciate the ruralness of Milton, and I mean, our symbol's the horse. And as we think about quality of life, and you think about why the horse is our symbol, rolling hills, et cetera, things like that. From what I heard with this development, that is about diametrically opposed to that feel that I've heard tonight in terms of the density, mailboxes all in one place. I don't think there's a neighborhood in Milton where all the mailboxes are in one place. So if a neighborhood is that dense that we have to look at that from a development standpoint, I don't know that that seems to fit what we'd like to see Milton be and become in the future. I mean, I think from just sitting here and thinking of how we can compromise in all this, if we want to maintain that rural feel, I think a development can happen with an AG1 zoning. You know, it'd be interesting to see, and I think that would be a situation where developers can win, the neighborhood, the topography can be maintained, and it seems to me like a win-win. So I just appreciate your consideration in that as you think about the zoning. It didn't seem like there was a huge need to change the zoning. Development could still happen, and that's the only point I wanted to make. Thank you.